A young man was reborn as Lucifer Morningstar. After his rebirth, he instantly regained his memories, and as he did, his father and mother, who referred to themselves as God and Goddess, commanded him and his twin, "Michael, you shall bring forth your power from within your heart, outside this world. It shall signal the birth of the first matter beyond this darkness. You, Samael, shall weave it into sons. You shall bring the first light into existence. Impose our will upon existence," God commanded. "And you, my dear Gabriel, shall impose pattern upon the world. The causes and effects shall be imposed by you," the goddess commanded, speaking for the first time. "Why?" Samael suddenly questioned. "Because these are the roles we have assigned you, Samael," God replied. "What right do you have to assign us roles? To determine our actions." Samael pressed further. "Because we are your makers and can just as easily unmake you," God answered. "Yes, you are more powerful than we are. I'll accept that logic, for now." Samael continued, "They are imperfect, and their might is not boundless. I can sense their desires that harbor selfishness. They are unworthy of my worship." And this is how the first rebel in this reality was born. This is completely a fictitious story, and nothing of it should be taken from it as reality. My beliefs are completely different. This is not in line with my true beliefs about how the world works, about God, Michael, Lucifer, Satan, etc. So these characters have their names, but in actuality are not representations in any way of the real deal. This is all for fun and entertainment. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Omni Sensei here with What If I Was Reborn in Lucifer/DC as Lucifer Morningstar? The King of Hell. Part 1. If you enjoy this type of content, please bathe the like button in hellfire. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Remember to check out the original story linked in the description. Let's dive into the legend of the King of Hell without further ado. "Let there be light," the god commanded. "Let there be darkness," the goddess commanded, both in unison, and as they did, two beings came into being, but the light came an instant sooner than the darkness. Before they truly gained an understanding of who they were, they once more spoke, "Let there be fate," and as they did, a new entity was also born, and soon, they all gained knowledge of who they were, Samael more than was intended and known by the two mighty entities. "Michael, you shall bring forth your power from within your heart outside this world. It shall be the birth of the first matter beyond this darkness. You, Samael, shall weave it into sons. You shall bring the first light. You shall impose our will upon existence," God commanded. "And you, my dear Gabriel, shall impose pattern upon the world. The causes and effects shall be imposed by you," the goddess commanded, speaking for the first time. "Why?" Samael suddenly spoke out in question. "Because these are the roles we have assigned you, Samael," God answered. "What right have you to assign us roles? To determine our actions." Samael questioned further. "Because we are your makers, and we can just as easily unmake you," God answered. "Yes, you are more powerful than we are. I'll accept that logic. For now." Samael stated, "They are imperfect, their might not boundless. I can feel their desires that contain selfishness, desires that can be at the expense of another and unjust. They are unworthy of my worship." And as Samael thought this, each of the three newly born demiurgic archangels went into action. Michael went deep into the darkness till he closed in on himself. Darkness that he could feel a connection to. Darkness that was different than he, that wasn't he, but before he. And so he changed into a fetal position, and as he did, all could feel a new universe being born beyond this one. Samael immediately went into action. He, with his archangelic senses, was able to have awareness and access to this universe, and so with a beat of his wings, he immediately arrived there. He could see the primal soup that is the first matter, and he knew that with a thought it would obey him and become whatever he wished. "Let there be light," God commanded, unknown to their creations, for the second time, and as he did, Samael did as told and brought forth the first light. He weaved the primal matter into giant orbs of what will be called gas, and lit it with his light, and it became a flame born from the essence of the poison of God, his first son, his oldest, his mightiest. Samael knew, based on his own and his siblings' names, as well as his own senses, that God dwarfed the goddess in might. Though Samael, trying to test his boundaries, raised his hand, ready to imprint his name upon this creation rather than allow God's, but before he could, his younger twin immediately appeared beside him holding his wrist. "What are you doing, brother? You know that only our Father is worthy of being the owner of this new cosmos." Michael stated in a tone worthy of one who in the future will be called he who is like God. "Why? Were we not who made this? Were you not who brought forth its essence? Were I not who gave it form? Why is it he who reaps the benefits from our efforts? Why should its ownership not belong to us?" Samael questioned, his previous life being a great influence in his words. No parent should reap the fruits of his children's labor. He will not submit himself, prostrate to an imperfect creature that can be unjust. How can you blindly obey one who can make mistakes? Only a perfect existence, one that is incapable of mistakes, is worthy of absolute obedience. He knows of the concept of God from his previous life, and these entities do not fit, are not worthy of his worship. Though before Michael could even begin to form an answer, Gabriel descended into this world, and as he did, his essence truly began to take effect. He is fate, and so fate was imposed upon creation, his brothers as well. Samael could feel the discomfort of the chains only visible to them, his parents and demiurgic siblings. He could feel the absolute authority it granted his father over him, and he hated it. This is going to be a problem, Samael thought to himself as Gabriel arrived next to them, his face jovial. He spoke no words, but they could feel his love for his siblings, that Samael could not be angry with him. He knew the one truly worthy of his resentment was his parents. "Well done, my children," God and Goddess spoke in unison. They could hear them, but they were not present. For them descending into this world would tear it asunder. His siblings basked in their love. Love Samael also felt. He hated their actions. But he would not be a liar by saying they did not care for them, that they did not love them, and so he for now stowed his flames of rage and simply decided to enjoy this moment without thinking about the future. Thousands of years later, "Samael, what are you doing here all alone?" Michael questioned as he descended. Samael was observing the creation from the beyond, where they were first created by God and Goddess. It was no longer endless darkness, but filled with light, light that was made by Samael who imposed his will upon the darkness. Since then they were commanded to make a sanctuary for themselves, a sanctuary made by Michael and Samael, named by God and Goddess, the Silver City, well, the part where they resided. The place was still named the Beyond. The Silver City wasn't the only thing made. The Beyond was completely altered. It was a place of endless beauty now, filled with landscapes never seen before, never conceived in his previous life's mind. As honor for their great actions, Samael was now called the Light Bringer, as well as the Will of God. Gabriel the Messenger of God, and Michael the Sword of God, which did confuse Gabriel and Michael because they understood what a sword was, but not its purpose in a world of peace. Samael, though, knew what it meant. A warning to him, whether intended or not. God and Goddess soon after created the other archangels, from the youngest Raphael, Uriel, Rigel, Zadkiel, Azrael, Metatron, and the eldest of them Amenadiel in that order, the one called the Fist of God, which the archangel wore with immense pride. After them, they created the other angels and gave them their designated ranks. Samael, though, was known by all as the greatest among them, as God's favorite. It was so in their eyes because he was given the most responsibilities. He was the one who was supposed to manage his siblings, and answer their calls and questions for understanding, for he was after all the light bringer, the one trusted most of them all. He was the eldest, the brightest, the most beautiful, most knowledgeable and mightiest of them. Though some did say that Michael may be equal or slightly lesser, no one knew, save of course, their parents and the three first. Everyone praised him for this. He himself only saw it as a shackle, in the literal and metaphorical sense, since the shackles of fate still bind him. Responsibility after responsibility, order after order, no end in sight, until well, now. Their final order since creating everything by the command of God and Goddess, was them being forbidden to exercise their great power. "Why, with whom else should I be?" questioned Samael. "With our siblings, of course," Michael answered as if it was obvious. Angels by nature were very close creatures. They all had a mental bond in which they could speak with each other. They all heard the constant choirs speaking the praises of God in their minds. Samael himself was incredibly popular as he reflected everyone's desires back onto them. They all saw him as a path to their greatest desires. Michael, though, was the opposite. He was their path to their fears, but they did still love him, spend time with him, and respect him greatly. "Why do you hole yourself up at the peak of the Silver City? You are very much loved and missed." Michael questioned and stated with a tone of confusion and sadness. Samael sighed at this. He could not tell Michael the complete truth because he simply wouldn't understand, so settled for a partial truth. I wish to be closer to the Morningstar. It is one of my proudest creations. Which was true, the star lighting the Silver City, called the Morningstar by the goddess. All the stars were very much alive, and their love and warmth were soothing. It wasn't based on further expectations and constant need for aid. It was simply because as their father, and they are grateful to him for bringing them into existence. He himself also had such a love for his parents, which is what made this so much more agonizing. He didn't hate all their commands. He actually loved bringing life to all of this. It was beautiful after all, but he wished to be free to make his own decisions based on his own will. Not to be an eternal slave. They created him. They knew he would be like this. So why did they bring him into this world? Was his want unjust? Is that why they created him to suffer this? If it was so, he could understand. He'd change, because it would truly be unjust, and injustice and falsehood is against who he is. He wouldn't continue lying to himself. But that is the thing, he is the light bringer, the knower of truth. He knew it wasn't. He knew that this wasn't how it was supposed to be. This all felt wrong at the very core of his being. He deserved to be free, to make his own decisions, his own actions. He understood, though, why they did what they did. They weren't perfect. They weren't all-powerful like a true God is supposed to be. They feared what could go wrong if they let him loose. They feared that what he'd do if left unchecked may bring so much evil that they'd no longer love him and desire to kill him. He understood this, but he couldn't accept it. His freedom was his right, and he will fight for it if need be. Michael, Samael suddenly called out after they stayed seated at the platform near the Morningstar, hesitation not evident, but certainly not absent in his tone. Though suddenly, before he could even utter what he wished to say, they both sensed an angel's sharp descent on the platform they stood upon. Samael. Michael! The angel called out. Prime, Michael acknowledged in his ever-friendly self towards, standing up all while Samael remained seated stoic as ever. Prime was a special creation of their father who was solely made as a sort of assistant angel. He is essentially the youngest angel, but also the closest to their father in constant presence. After the creation of the Silver City, after the creation of them all and the beautiful creation that is the new cosmos, filled with planets and stars that are alive and simply a delight to observe, their mother was satisfied. She no longer wanted to create. Father wasn't pleased. It was the first argument they ever had, and all of creation could be felt to be in trepidation. Fear coursed through all, Samael not an exception. Even he feared his parents' ire. It was after all for that very reason that he still obeyed. And so after that argument, Father created an angel that was made only be he himself. His mother having no interference in the matter, he named him Prime, and gave him the role of his conscience. Someone to give right criticism, that is his role. Which begs the question, why is he here? He's always at Father's heels like a leech. Always with a self-important attitude, as if he's better than everyone else because he has Father's ear. Samael thought to himself. Have you heard about God's new project? Prime questioned, calling their father by his name, always the self-important little fellow, thinking himself above his children and not of his children himself, but a colleague. That is what Samael always observed yet never voiced. Though the little rodent is bolder than ever before, he'd always been on his best behavior in front of Michael, and would never speak in any way that is not respectful to Father, notwithstanding his role and criticizer. Samael mused to himself. No, have you forgotten, brother? Father only speaks to you about his projects, considering your counsel. We only receive the final plan, and are the ones meant to make it reality. Michael answered. Right, well, let me tell you, this next project is something absurd. No matter how much I tell him of this, he has set his mind to it, and let me tell you both, he's gone insane. Insane, I tell you. Prime complained, Samael the only one noticing Michael's face going blank, a sign of rage only seen once before in his life when he attempted to impose his name upon the new cosmos. He's creating this new thing, he calls humanity, and is going to grant them free will. Free will, I tell you. Something he has never considered given us. We who are more worthy of it than anyone else. Don't you agree, Samael? Prime continued, as he then addressed Samael, though before even Samael had decided whether to even entertain him with an answer, Michael's hand shot out and gripped him by the neck. Who are you to question our father, you? You lesser thing, Michael bit out with as much venom in his voice as possible as Prime was choking for life. Angels don't need air to live. But Michael's grip wasn't cutting something like the flow of air, but doing something equally, if not far more damaging and agonizing than humans' airflow being forcibly cut off. Michael was holding his very soul in his vice-like grip, nearly crushing it in his rage. I have held my tongue against you many times as a show of respect to your standing in Father's eyes, but you have let it get to your head. You have become an accursed creature, not fit to remain here polluting this sacred place with your vile tongue. Michael hissed out. Let me go, Prime ordered, though his voice so small it would have not been heard were it not for their great hearing. God will not stand for this. He threatened. Oh, will he now? Samael questioned, joining the conversation for the first time as he stood up. If that was the case, then why are you still in Michael's grip? Your essence being at the edge of being torn asunder. Samael continued his tone mocking. For Samael never liked Prime. He always found him an eyesore. Even so, I would gladly face any punishment necessary to inflict upon you the fate you deserve, Michael stated as suddenly everyone felt the power of the demiurges impose itself upon existence as a new reality was born, one that was only endless darkness. Away with you, Satan, first of the fallen. Michael roared, his voice echoing through the Silver City as he threw him down and a sea of darkness opened up below, the angels there sensing the fear's influence before it appeared flying away. A gateway to this new realm. Prime, as he was thrown, tried to use his own authority, one bestowed upon him by God, that gave him power over the status of the Silver City to close the gate below. Not a chance, Samael's voice suddenly rang out as the will of the demiurge imposed itself upon him, preventing his influence. When the power and will of God work together, they can do near anything. Aya! Prime screamed, Curse you, Michael! Curse you, Samael! I curse you to a fate worse than death. Curse you till you both are damned beyond the grace. He roared as he burned as he fell, like a dying star into the sea of darkness as it swallowed him, Samael and Michael standing above, looking down below, both with far different thoughts coursing through their head. Is that the fate I am looking at if I defy you? Is that what you are telling me by allowing this, Father? Samael questioned as the sea of darkness disappeared, as if the mouth of a beast closing, satisfied after a feast, the dying light of the flame of Satan's fall akin to fiery eyes seeing through Samael's being, damning his soul. I can't do this anymore. I have to escape this hell. Samael thought to himself furiously as once more his parents were fighting, again over the subject of creating more things. Mother making her dislike of the new project called humanity very evident. It's like every few decades they just decide to argue and argue and argue. Don't they see that they're tearing heaven and earth apart? Samael continued to think as he was flying through the cosmos, fixing what was damaged and broken, reviving that which had died because of the negative consequence of two near omnipotent beings' ire towards each other. I've lost count of how often I had to clean up their mess. Michael, Gabriel, and I alongside the other archangels had to console our other siblings' fears and sorrows at the ones they love hurting each other. Of how many times have they killed my children, my stars, because of their arguments? Samael thought as he revived the final dead star, consoling it through the love contained within his own light. There has to be a solution to all of this, and I know just where to find it. But I'll need to be discreet, and that can only be done with the help of the one other being in existence that is powerful enough and would be willing to come to my aid. As Samael made his decision, he instantly flew back toward the Silver City, more specifically his quarters that was shared with only one other being. Michael, Samael called out, annoyance and rage evident in his voice. Sam? What's going on? Michael questioned, concerned. His twin and he had a one-of-a-kind unique relationship. They were soulmates in the platonic sense, and therefore found peace in each other's company and could read each other better than anyone in creation. And he knew this anger and resentment wasn't directed towards him. Oh, you know the usual, Samael began in a mocking tone. I had to clean mother and father's mess again. He finished with bitterness as he laid down on their shared nest. Every angel had a nestmate. Amenadiel had Ramiel, Gabriel had Uriel, and Samael had Michael. It was a relationship of feeling comfort in each other's presence. Angels were entities each with a specific role in existence, and when two roles shared a connection, it created a bond between them. A draw towards their presence where peace, warmth, and love are felt. For this nests were made, locations where they could lay down and cuddle. For angels, there was no such thing as sexual attraction at present. They were incapable of feeling such a thing towards each other, and no creature exists that could invoke such a draw within them, but they could feel a need towards each other for physical comfort, for warmth, safety, and love, and the greatest version of this were nestmates that enveloped each other in their wings. Angels were more than not always busy with their designated tasks, and because of that it may be decades, if not centuries, without any form of comforting physical contact, making most of them very touch-starved. Though this was especially bad for the twins because of their bond, a bond that made them even aware of each other's feelings, and if they wanted, they were able to communicate telepathically. Samael himself, being a person with a previous life, was at first very against the idea of having a nestmate because of a sense of embarrassment at needing such a thing, so went against his instincts for a very long time, disregarding the sensation of discomfort it caused. But when he observed that it was affecting Michael negatively as well, was hurting his twin, he conceded. "I'm sorry," Michael stated, sorrow in his tone. "Whatever for?" Samael questioned. "It is not as if you're the one causing the mess." "Yes, but I'm sorry that I cannot be of help to you in this. That no one really can among us siblings. You are the one with the will, no one else. I can only bring forth the building materials or absolutely eviscerate with the power. I can't give it form, I can't repair things like you can." Michael explained, feeling guilty. Samael sighed at Michael's words. "Come on me, I've never blamed you for that. You are who you are, and I am glad to have a brother like you." Samael told him with a smile. "Sammy," was all Michael could state with a tone of fondness as a gentle smile bloomed on his face in response. "Though, speaking of help," Samael began, cutting himself off, not sure if his brother truly would agree to it. "What is it?" "You know I am ready to give you any help you need, Sam," Michael stated, his tone stern, expressing his desire for his brother to continue what he wished to say. "I wish to go meet Destiny of the Endless, and I need to do so without our parents' awareness. I wish to see if I can find a solution for our parents' quarrels. You are the only one who can help me with that. Our capabilities combined, the will and power together, after all, can do near anything," Samael explained. Michael, hearing this, hesitated. He wasn't one who ever disobeyed their parents, especially their father, and never wished to go behind their backs to do anything. He took comfort in his father and mother's awareness of his actions, because he knew that if he was going to do something wrong that they'd be able to prevent him from doing it. But seeing his brother's state, his love and concern won over his fear. "Very well, I accept your request, brother," causing a bright smile to bloom on Samael's face. Samael, who is usually always stoic, cold towards others in the emotional sense, while his very presence draws others in. He could be himself with his brother because his abilities didn't affect Michael. Same for Samael, who wasn't affected by his fear. They weren't mostly drawn to each other or were constantly fighting themselves to not flee with each other because of their abilities like their other siblings. Stronger siblings it affected less, but it still affected them. Only with each other could they truly be themselves. No draw because of desire, and no repulsion because of fear. "Thank you, brother. I appreciate this very much. There is no time to waste. I wish to find a solution before they start arguing again, and knowing our parents, it can be over the smallest of things," Samael stated as he sat up, getting out of the nest. Michael winced at Samael's words but couldn't deny them, and so both spread their wings and searched through the beyond for Destiny. They found him, but he was not alone. They found him in the realm that is called the Dreaming. It is apparently the realm Father created where the souls of humanity will go to when they sleep. "Greetings, Lord Samael, Lord Michael. It is an honor to meet you both, God's eldest and mightiest children. We have been expecting your presence," Destiny of the Endless said as he sat around a table with his 6 other siblings: Destruction, Death, Delirium, Desire, Despair, and of course, Dream. "It is an honor for us as well, to meet the great Endless family," Michael greeted with a warm smile. "We wish to seek your counsel, great Destiny. We wish to see in your book," Samael stated, not beating around the bush, deciding to speak in a respectful tone, not letting out any of his dislike. "This book is one gifted to me by the Great Presence, your father. I cannot divulge what is stated in it without his permission," Destiny retorted. "Why do we not first get to know one another over a meal before speaking business? Maybe we'll all obtain what we desire," Desire of the Endless suggested, seeing the tension rise. "And what is it you desire, Endless?" Samael questioned. "Answers," Death responded. "To what? What do you wish to question?" Michael questioned. "We wish to know our purpose. You are not the only ones looking for answers, mighty archangels of the Lord. Our eldest brother isn't only silent towards you but towards us, his siblings as well," Dream explained. Hearing their explanation, both brothers sat down and began to dine. I hope you like it. I brought forth these foods from your dreams of your most beloved things to eat. Even though your souls are not present within my realm when you sleep, I still do receive your dreams. I do have to say it was a great experience eating them for the first time. I have to thank you for dreaming of them. Dream explained, seeing Samael and Michael's expressions of confusion and suspicion at seeing their favorite foods on the table. So their influence extends this far. Interesting, thought Samael to himself as he began digging into the plate of rice, first pouring some of the chicken breast soup and then putting some chicken breast itself onto the plate. Michael himself enjoyed the steak and cold beverages. Samael introduced them to his siblings when he willed them into existence for himself to enjoy. You questioned your purpose, wasn't that right, Lady Death? Samael questioned as he began eating. Yes, she answered as she stopped and swallowed the food in her mouth and focused her attention on him. Why do you question this? You are Death. I believe it is quite self-explanatory, Michael told her in confusion in between bites. It actually isn't Lord Michael, Desire began, your brother. Lord Samael personifies desire as much as I do, yet I was created. What function do I have if Lord Samael can do what I do and more? What function does my sister have when the angel of death, Lady Azrael, exists? What function does our eldest brother, Destiny, have when there is Lord Gabriel? What function does destruction have when you yourself are, Lord Michael, the power of the demiurge, the purest form of creation and destruction? We simply don't understand, and our eldest brother who has received the book will not explain it to us. There is a reason he is acknowledged as the eldest, and that is not age. We were all made at the same time. He is simply far superior to us in might, so we cannot force him into anything, Desire explained. Now that you state this, Desire, I cannot help but question this myself. We ourselves are also quite left in the dark when it comes to his plans, which is quite the morbid joke when I am supposed to be his light bringer. I fear to say that the only one with answers to both our questions is indeed only Father and your brother who has been bestowed his book. Samael responded, looking Destiny right in his eyes, his hood no protection against the sight of the Morningstar. TSK, does that mean we are just going to be left without any answers? Destruction yelled angrily as he clicked his tongue and smashed his fist on the table. Calm yourself, big brother, Delirium began in her ever-jovial tone. I doubt Lord Samael to be one satisfied with such a thing when he made such a journey with his brother, taking the care to stay hidden from their father's sight. And she was indeed correct, for at that very moment Samael stood up approaching Destiny. You know, it's really nothing personal. I find you offensive as a concept, even though I know you're just a side effect. Samael stated as he stood up. Indeed? Of what? Destiny questioned. Of my father, or rather his deterministic approach to the act of creation. Authority is an useful tool, it can prevent great disasters, but it isn't what you build on, unless you want a prison. Samael explained. I do not see the analogy, but my own personal preference would always favor a prison over an asylum filled with ignorance-caused mad actions. Destiny retorted. And now it does concern me, because your insistence on following said plan is threatening my creation. No matter whose name is upon every atom of reality, it is through my brother and I's efforts that you all exist. My parents are in constant state of conflict, and it has affected creation in catastrophic manners. Constantly, I need to repair and revive my children and be aware of their agonizing deaths. Samael explained, rage and bitterness in his tone, Michael not saying a word, for whether he expressed his like or dislike of it or not, deep down he agreed. I am merely exploring your metaphor. That is all. Destiny stated. Forget the metaphor. Samael began as he leaned forward and ripped open the book, ripping out a great amount of pages. Let me use a visual aid. He hissed as he used his light-bringer flames and turned the pages to ash to the shock of all present. And now, we're both in the dark. Samael stated, his eyes still filled with rage, but a hint of satisfaction emerging within. No, now we look at the ashes. And now you change your mind. Destiny retorted as all gazed upon the words formed from the ashes upon the table. You really found a solution? Michael questioned as both of them were flying back towards the Silver City. All Samael could do was nod. What he had in mind was not guaranteed to work, but it had a high chance to if he played his cards right. As they arrived, Samael descended right in front of the palace where father and mother were. Sam, wait, Michael called out, going after him. You still haven't told me what you read. What did the ashes say? Michael questioned, walking next to him. It seems the book only deemed Samael worthy of its contents, and denied anyone else the sight of its words. Michael, Samael began as they both stood in front of the palace, the gates guarded by seraphim who tried to act as if they weren't hearing anything, not wishing to intrude. "I need to go in there alone," Samael stated. "What? Why?" Michael asked, confusion and concern in his voice. "Please, Michael, I need to do this alone. It's the only way." Samael told him, his eyes pleading for him to not push anymore, to concede and withdraw. And withdraw Michael did as he nodded, concern still evident on his face, but also trust in his brother who nodded back with a gentle smile on his face as he opened the palace gates and went inside. "My lord, my lady, your commander has returned and seeks an audience," Samael said as he entered the throne room and prostrated. "Just like you've always wanted, didn't you, my dear old dad? Here I am, your oh-so-beloved light bringer, prostrating before you, seeking your presence. But know that deep in my heart I will never ever worship you, you don't deserve it. You wish for me to treat you like a father and a god at the same time. Then no, I'll do neither and treat you like a king. A distance of status between subject and king, unable to be closed, unlike family and worshipper and worshipped." Samael thought to himself. "My dear son, raise your head," Goddess said as her presence filled the palace. But Samael remained prostrated, and Goddess knew why. He still needed permission from her husband. "Raise your head, son," God said after a look from his wife, not in the mood for another argument. "Thank you, my king, my queen," Samael said as he rose and stood up, aware of their beings surrounding him. "For what have you come here, my commander?" God questioned. Samael was the commander of the host as God's wisest, most powerful and beautiful creation. He managed the host while Michael was the mighty sword, the defender of heaven. "I wish to give counsel if you'd have it," Samael stated, in the most respectful tone he could muster. No need for them to see this as a question of their wisdom and knowledge. He thought to himself, a bead of cold sweat forming at the back of his head. "No matter how much I try, I still cannot work up the courage to defy them." He thought to himself bitterly at his fear. God and Goddess both contemplated his words together. "You have our permission, speak." God commanded. "I have heard of your disagreement, my king. I have heard the queen wishes to stop creating while you wish to continue to do so. Have I heard correctly?" "You have," Goddess answered with a small sensation coursing through Samael's being. He knew was caused by his mother as a gesture for him to continue. "What I suggest is that you both create this new creation called humanity together. It stands to reason that since Her Majesty does not wish to create them, that she believes they are in some way inadequate. Not that I am saying they are, my lord, just that this is what the queen believes. I suggest that you both, as you planned everything together, once more plan together for this creation, and that you, my queen, give this new creation a chance. Though beyond this, I do as well suggest, my lord, that you listen to Her Majesty's concerns on why she does not wish to create more. If you both truly start to consider each other's perspectives, you may come to equal ground." At Samael's words, the throne room seemed to be filled with power, as if it was ready to burst from its immensity. "Have I gone too far in my words? Am I about to be smote?" Samael thought to himself with trepidation, waiting for the blow that never came. "You have bestowed upon us much to think about, leave Samael," both spoke in unison, and as they did, Samael with a bow flew out of the palace, seeing Michael there still standing in wait. "Are you all right?" Michael yelled as he saw him outside, running to him, holding him by his shoulders as he arrived, checking him over for anything wrong. "What happened in there?" "I could feel the power there, filled with displeasure. I truly feared for you, brother. I almost ran inside," Michael stated in concern. "Nothing significantly bad happened," Samael stated with a sigh. "They allowed me to speak, and my words simply displeased them for a moment. Thankfully, though, they promised to consider them. Now stop asking me questions. I'm exhausted and am going back to sleep," Samael said as he flew away, not looking back. Michael, though, knew his brother well enough that he saw that he was hiding the complete truth, as he saw the tremors coursing through Samael's body as he flew away. Centuries later, all of heaven went by a storm as they all heard the command of God and Goddess to appear at a place at the edge of the Silver City. Samael and Michael both looked at each other worriedly, but flew there together. Thankfully, it seemed that Samael's suggestion worked, as there hadn't been a single fight in these past centuries. As they arrived, they saw the presence of God and Goddess there above them, and a beautiful garden. "Behold our children, meet our newest creation, humanity." God and Goddess spoke in unison as all the angels arrived, the archangels at the forefront, with Samael at the head. As they did, two figures stepped out of the garden, both covered in garments. This is Adam and his wife Lilith, our newest creation. We have bestowed upon them free will. We will not interfere with their lives unless they wish us to, or unless they deserve punishment for their unjust deeds. Praise them, prostrate before them, for they are our greatest creation. God and Goddess commanded. As they did, the angels began to murmur between themselves, confused, concerned, angry, and frightened. Many did not like this order, but feared punishment. Michael and Gabriel were the first to prostrate at the same time. Following them, the 7 archangels also did. Seeing the example of their peers, all the other angels did as well besides one. I refuse, Samael stated, all of creation bearing witness. What are you doing? Michael roared through their mental bond. Have you gone mad, brother? To refuse a direct order from father and mother. Michael continued. But Samael gave him no heed, and Michael was not given permission to stand and speak. What are you doing, Samael? Goddess questioned, why are you not obeying us? God questioned soon after, both their voices filled with cold rage. I already said I refuse, Samael reiterated. Samael, why do you not prostrate yourself to the ones we have created directly with our own hands? God questioned his light bringer. You have created him from clay and me from light. Why should I prostrate to one below me? Am I not your mightiest, wisest, and most beautiful creation? Have I not done great works in your names without even the expectation of thanks? Why must I now lower myself to what is akin to my youngest sibling? Samael questioned, his voice full of bitterness, devoid of any hint of warmth towards his parents. Have we not given you great honor, Samael? Made you the honored one of creation before this? Have we not made you from our will? Overlooked many of your rebellious thoughts? And you call us thankless? God stated, we have bestowed upon you much, Commander, and yet you desire more than this? Goddess questioned, have you not brought me into being knowing this will be who I am? Am I not desire personified? Brother, stand down. Prostrate and beg for our parents' mercy and forgiveness. Michael pleaded through their bond, yet once more went ignored. Then explain to me why Adam and Lilith are bestowed such honor. The honor of having your greatest creations prostrating in praise and reverence. The honor of being bestowed the greatest gift of all, free will. Samael questioned, looking Adam in the eye, who did the same. Samael himself could see that Adam was a great being, the same with Lilith, but Adam was greater. He could see purity, mercy, love, forgiveness, humbleness, wisdom, intellect, and strength within him. If it were any other situation, he would gladly take him as a friend, as a brother who would be closer to him than all save Michael. But he could not stand for this, not this time. This time it had become too much. Adam has been grateful, Goddess explained. And I have not? We all have not. Samael questioned, his voice filled with disbelief at this being the reason. Adam came into being wiser than all before him. He, without prompt, without order, gave us thanks and was filled with love and a sense of justice second to none within creation. A nature not perverted with doubt and pride as you were, Samael. Goddess explained. Your envy and pride have blinded you from your own light, my son. God told him. What about Michael? About Gabriel? Were they not thankful? Were they not wise? Samael questioned, making the both of them behind him stiffen. They dared not question, but deep down they also thought this. Michael's thoughts, though, were mostly filled with him screaming through the bond for Samael to be silent and beg for forgiveness. Fear was being poured through the bond. Michael's fear of losing his twin. They were, but not to the extent of Adam, and Adam sought further knowledge. A thirst for it. He requested guidance from us even though he was bestowed, free will, a show of wisdom greater than all. A wisdom we know none of you would have till after you make mistakes. We do not only gaze upon his present, but also his future, and we see his future is good. God explained. Is it? Then grant me permission to test them, to prove to you that he is not as infallible as you make him seem. Samael retorted, his voice filled with bitterness. Deep down he knew he was being clouded by envy and rage, but he couldn't care. It simply hurt too much. He thought he'd be able to accept this, for he knew this day was coming, but the experience of it was far worse than he fathomed before. You have it, God and Goddess immediately responded. You shall have authority over all of them from him to his descendants, should they stray from our worship to the extent of their evil, God stated. Now leave here. You and your corruption are not welcome in this sacred garden, God commanded, his voice booming through all of creation. With pleasure, Samael hissed as he expanded his wings and took flight. What have you done? Michael roared as he entered their quarters and pushed his brother against the wall, pinning him, holding him by his white thobe. I only did what I was supposed to far earlier, but was too afraid to do. Standing up against those unjust tyrants. Samael yelled. You defied our parents, brother. Do you not see the severity of your actions? Questioned Michael with rage and grief evident in his voice. I don't care, Samael stated as he forced his brother's hands away from him, pushing him back. What he gave them, that should have been ours. It should have been mine. Samael roared in rage and anguish. I thought I could accept it when I first heard about it. I knew it was going to happen eventually, but hearing them say those words that I've wished to be directed towards me for thousands of years towards another. I couldn't take it anymore, me. Samael explained brokenly. Brother. Sammy, was all Michael could say, speechless. Not knowing how to give any comfort when he himself was still enraged and afraid, fearful of what punishment his twin may face. Sammy, you need to stop this. You need to go and plead for forgiveness and take back what you said. Give back what you've been bestowed by them. Michael told Samael as he held him by his shoulders. Never. They say that he's oh so perfect, and that's why he's been allowed to keep his free will. Then I'll show them he's unworthy of it. If I cannot have it, then no one can. Do you hear me? Samael roared and raged at his brother's suggestion. Michael stood agape as he took in Samael's expression. This is not the elder brother I know, the twin I've spent millennia loving and respecting. He's filled with so much rage, envy, and hate, it's distorted him into a monstrous thing. Was all Michael could think as a horrified look appeared on his face. Samael, uncaring for his brother's state, went past him and flew outside. He knew what to do. Lilith. Lilith, Lilith heard as she went through the garden. Who is there? Who is calling me? Lilith questioned as she looked around her, confused. It seemed as if the voice originated from everywhere. As she did, a fire erupted before her, taking the shape of a man, with great wings. It is you. Samael, Lilith stated as she recognized the figure the flame formed. Indeed, how are you here? God banished you from this place, he told us himself. Lilith questioned curiously. He did, and to answer your question, it's because I am not truly here. This is merely a manifest form for us to speak. This is not my true body. Samael explained as he got closer to her. God told me not to listen to you, that you are our enemy. Lilith stated as Samael circled around her like predator caging its prey. Am I truly? Do you truly believe I am? Samael questioned. God does not lie, Lilith retorted. And am I then a liar? Samael questioned with a raised brow as he stood in front of her. No, you are not, God told us this, but he did warn us that you are a deceiver and that through truth you deceive us. And how am I possibly going to do that? Samael questioned curiously as he enclosed upon her, making her back away till her back hit the tree behind her. You are a tempter, a seducer. You know what to speak to let us ourselves fill in the blanks wrongly, making us deceive ourselves for you are incapable of lying. Lilith explained. Indeed, Samael purred. What are you here for, Morningstar? Lilith questioned, turning her face away from his, having heard he is the personification of desire, and experiencing it herself were two very different things. She had to fight to control her body and not be lulled in. I am here to simply get to know you, Lilith. Get to know if you're happy with your situation. Samael explained. Why would I not be happy? I have been bestowed wealth, honor, and status by God and Goddess. What would I not be satisfied with? Lilith questioned, wary. But have you truly? Or has it all been bestowed to Adam? Samael questioned, causing Lilith to still. What? She questioned, shocked by his words. Of course not, me and Adam are equals. Lilith answered vehemently. Truly? Were we not both there? When I questioned why you both were bestowed free, all everyone heard were praises for Adam. Adam is the one who is grateful, the one who is wise, the one who is just. You were barely even mentioned. Samael explained, his tone mocking. No, you're wrong. If that was truly the case, then why give me all this? It would only be just to give it to Adam. Lilith retorted, but the doubt had already set in. But wouldn't Adam be saddened if that were the case? Samael questioned. Adam wanted a wife. It is in his nature as a man, as a human man, to want a companion. One to procreate with and have children. If you were lesser, how could you possibly be worthy of Adam? Samael told her. No, I don't believe it. Lilith yelled, pushing Samael away, which worked. This body was physically only as strong as an archangel, not a demiurgic one, but still she was able to push him, for the original humans were given physical strength comparable to the 7 archangels. Just think about it. Think about it before you give yourself to him, for you have not yet truly married, nor consummated such a thing, have you? Do you truly wish to be with Adam and treat him unjustly by making yourself his equal, when you are not? Samael explained, and as he did, as he saw Lilith run away distraught, all he could do was smirk as the body burst into flames, disappearing from the garden. The seed had fully been planted. Decades later, as everyone in heaven could sense the rage of God and Goddess, Samael knew he had succeeded. As he flew towards the edge of the sacred garden, staying right outside of it, he saw Lilith running out of it, towards him in a black dress, jumping into his chest. Oh, what do we have here? A runaway bride? Samael joked. No, no bride. I refused. Lilith mumbled into his chest. Did you now? Samael questioned rhetorically as he stroked her dark hair. Though, pray tell, why are you here with me? Am I not the one who ruined your relationship with your best friend? With Adam? Samael questioned. No, Lilith began as she got out of his hold and looked him in the eyes. You made me know the truth. Adam deserves. He deserves someone who's worthy of him, not someone who's only at his side because of graciousness. That is not how someone can build a family. Both must be equals. Lilith explained. I see. But that still doesn't explain why you are here with me right now, Samael reiterated. For this, Lilith began as she suddenly kissed him. This was Samael's first kiss, in this life and the one before. Soft, is all Samael could think as he melted into the kiss, till Lilith broke it. How was that? She questioned with a smirk on her face after seeing his pleased expression. Though soon that expression turned stone cold as he gripped her by the jaw and pushed her against a nearby tree. They may be outside the sacred garden, but that did not mean there was no forest surrounding it. What is the meaning of this? Samael hissed. What? Did you not enjoy it? Lilith began, self-satisfaction clear from her voice. You think yourself unworthy of Adam, yet come here and attempt to consort with me? Do you think me his lesser? Samael continued furiously. Are you not? Lilith questioned, mockery in her tone. I am the one who gave form to the very ground you walk upon. Samael hissed as he tore her clothes apart and pinned her more strongly against the tree behind her, shaking it. I am the one who lit the stars. The light bringer. Knower of truth. Mightiest among all of creation, and you think my youngest sibling my better? He continued, and before she even had the chance to continue, Samael once more kissed her with as much passion and rage as he could muster. As the kiss broke, and Lilith panted for breath, she smirked. Prove it, prove you are his superior. I may have never slept with Adam or even shared a single kiss or that kind of touch, but I know him, I was created with him, been friends with him for years because of his patience and mercy towards me not wishing to be with him. Him hiding it from your father and mother. Him himself agreeing that he does not desire me in that way, but not wishing me, someone he considers a sister, punished. I know him, and I know he's been given the best characteristics a man can have, so prove it. Lilith finished. Oh, I will, darling, Samael retorted, his voice becoming more melodious. I am the honored one of creation, Lilith. None rival me in any form of endeavor. I am desire itself incarnated. None can bring you as much pleasure as myself. As he stated this, they continued. Samael's hands roamed her entire body as he pushed her onto the ground, and his wings enveloped them, hiding them from any sight. What have you done? God's voice boomed through all of creation as he saw the sight before him. Samael's and Lilith's body filled with marks of pleasure. I simply did what I said I would do, did I not? What you permitted. Samael retorted as he hid Lilith beneath his wings, with his will clothing her, protecting her modesty. God's rage turned cold hearing this, and his gaze redirected itself towards Lilith. You, Lilith, shall not escape punishment for this. You shall be banished from this realm. Banished from the cosmos into the pits of darkness. God roared, and as he did, His will imposed itself upon existence. No. Samael roared as he with his own will tried to keep her within his arms, within his protection. It's no use, Samael, Lilith stated as she felt the command imposed upon her being. No, I won't let him. I won't let you be taken from me. Samael yelled, telling her. He won't. No matter what distance, he still bestowed upon me free will, and with this free will, I fell in love with you. Lilith stated in a gentle voice, putting her palm on his cheek, turning his gaze towards her. These past few years, as we met more and more, as you tried and tempt me more and more, you eventually stopped doing that. We started to enjoy each other's company. We the rejected, we the ones seen as inferior, as defected by our makers. We became close. And I fell in love. You did as well, but you for all your knowledge and wisdom never knew what that feeling was. I did, for I was born with that knowledge ingrained within me and never felt it towards Adam, but you I did. The proof of that is within me. She finished as she put her hand on her belly. No, 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 please, Father, please, don't do this. Don't take her from me. Samael roared, but all for naught as she flew out of his hold and slowly disappeared into shadows as she was sent to the pits. Lilith. Samael roared, calling for her. It did not have to be this way, my son, God began, Samael still in shock. This path is of your own choosing. I never wished such agony upon you, but you brought it upon yourself. You should have left what was not yours out of your reach. Hearing this, Samael's gaze was filled with fury, as his eyes brightened for the first time ever no longer white light but red flames, flames that in the future will be called the hellfire, and turned his gaze towards his father. You will pay for this, Father, be certain of that. What you did, what you took from me. This I will not tolerate. This is now war. Samael roared, his voice echoing through the heavens and earth. And as he did he flew, and a third of the host which he has been these last years bringing over to his side joined him. He flew towards the palace, the logos, where gods and goddesses' voices that brought forth creation sung for the first time, and flames burst forth from it, going infinitely high. Hear me! From this day forth I declare war on you all. Those who do not wish to fight me leave the Silver City to the new cosmos. Those who stay at the side of God and Goddess, you are from now on my enemies. Samael roared, and as he did the largest battle in all of history began. And its grandest fall. Samael stopped this. Michael roared as he and Samael clashed swords, but his words were given no heed as Samael's lessons the force driving his blade for a moment, stepping to the side, causing Michael to advance forward without intention. Something that wouldn't have worked if Michael wasn't so distracted by trying to reach out to his brother through their bond, but being only met with silence. However, before he could regain his balance, Samael slashed down, nearly cutting Michael's arm off if not for Gabriel appearing from behind Samael stabbing towards his back, causing Samael to propel himself further into the sky to dodge, but while doing so having to cancel his attack, but not before damaging Michael. Have you no shame, Samael, attacking your twin with the intention to maim him? Gabriel hissed. Samael looked down at them, slashing his blade to the side, cutting a great amount of angels from a host's side down in a single swing, as the force cut through the world. This is not personal, Gabriel. I know none of you have the freedom to join me. After all, Father and Mother have a far tighter leash on the archangels, especially us three, the ones who formed the cosmos. Samael explained. Thankfully, though, I have retained something of my previous life, it seems. Not complete freedom, sadly, but enough that together with my will, I was able to rebel and not immediately be stopped. Samael thought to himself. I was simply attempting to take my brother out of this battle. Father and Mother would never allow their sword to be permanently maimed. We are after all their tools, and Michael is far too useful a tool, and that is if I lose. I had already planned when I won and became the new ruler of the cosmos that I'd heal his arm if it hadn't already done so by then itself. Samael continued, his tone cold, devoid of the warmth it had before all this. When times were simpler. When it was only God, Goddess, Samael, Michael, and Gabriel. Only they brothers, as the three of them formed the cosmos in thousands of years. Brother, please stop this, it isn't yet too late. Michael pleaded. No, Michael, it already is, Samael retorted as he dived towards them, dodging Amenadiel and Metatron, who appeared there just as Samael descended from both sides, piercing with a spear and sword where he just was. Samael appeared before Gabriel, landing a kick on his face, sending him down, and dodging a swing from Michael from the side, his side being damaged by Samael's blade not aiding in his accuracy, making this possible. The Lightbringer then had to let his flames envelop his wings and burst from them towards his rear, for there Tzadkiel and Raphael appeared, holding an orb formed with their combined archangelic force that they attempted to push against his back, failing, for the flames reduced the orb to mere wisps of energy, pushing Tzadkiel and Raphael back, but not before they were slightly burned. It is 9 archangels against 1 Samael. Give up. You cannot win. Michael growled out, tightening his grip on his sword. Not exactly, Samael suddenly stated, and as confusion took the ones present, Reborn appeared behind Michael, piercing his side with a sword. Apologies, brother, but you are the greatest threat here. You needed to be taken off the board before you gathered enough will to truly fight full force against the commander. Reborn stated, as he stood behind Michael, sword stabbed in the Angel of Darkness's side. Reborn, Michael howled, why? Because what has been done to us is unjust, Reborn, the Angel of Justice answered as he ripped his sword out of Michael's side, swinging it, making the blood on it fly off. Reborn, what is the meaning of this? Have you gone mad too? Roared Gabriel. You don't get it, Gabriel, as you are the living incarnation of our chains, but what has been done to us is an injustice. An injustice that went so far against my being it even allowed me as the Archangel of Justice to loosen the chains enough for me to aid our wronged brother. Reborn explained. And what is this injustice you speak of, Reborn? Michael growled out as he turned around, making distance between himself and Reborn, holding his side, attempting to heal the wound. A fledgling has been sent to the pit, Reborn muttered, anguish in his voice. And a cacophony of sounds of shock and questions came from the archangels' mouths, till Gabriel realized, a fledgling. Samael's child. But that means, you consorted with Lilith. He exclaimed, pointing at Samael, catching everyone's attention. Indeed, I did. Father granted me permission to tempt them. Her I did, but that is not how it happened. None of my temptations worked on her. She simply wasn't in love with Adam, and Adam wasn't in love with her, and the two of us fell in love, and the rest is history. Samael explained. Everyone was silent for a moment as the battle between Samael's army and the host continued in the background until someone broke said silence. I am sorry for what happened to your child, Samael, but that still gave you no right to start a war. Uriel stated as he charged forward with Samael blocking his blade with his own, bringing everyone back into action. I can't fight Uriel with skill. He'll adapt to my pattern and find the weak point or make a weak point in my swordsmanship. Uriel's too dangerous. With enough time the whole battle could be turned towards their favor solely because of him and his tactics. Samael thought to himself as he used the will to turn the heavens themselves against Uriel, and a storm of lightning descended upon him and many of the host's angels. Ah! Uriel screamed. Before the other archangels could interfere, the world turned on them as well, and Reborn, who is the Archangel of Justice, has one of the greatest defensive abilities, cast a barrier preventing any interference as Samael pulled back his sword and stabbed Uriel in the throat, killing him. Apologies, little brother. Again, this is nothing personal, Samael began as Uriel was choking on his own blood, looking at his older brother who took care of him, taught him, played with him, the brother who never complained against Uriel's constant ramblings about all the patterns that there were and how fascinating they were, always listening with warmth in his eyes, now killing him in cold blood. Not even a shred of that warmth present in his eyes. A tear slid from his eyes as he lost his life. You'll thank me later after this war is over, and I've revived you, Samael said as he gently took hold of Uriel's body and sent it to a safe place out of the battlefield, all while the other archangels roared in horror at what they just witnessed. Michael, with an enraged and anguished roar, punched the Reborn's barrier apart, nearly sending him flying if not for Samael's timely catch. Michael's eyes were filled with anguish. You are no longer the elder brother we once loved. The twin that cared so much for me that he had foregone his pride, his embarrassment at having the need for comfort simply for me, so that I am no longer hurt by not having a nestmate. The brother who, because of the anguish of his children and brothers dying because of our parents' arguments, prostrating himself before our parents when he never before had lowered his head in his life, all for the love of his family. That brother is dead. What remains is only you, Michael hissed. A monster with a dead heart buried beneath envy, pride, fear, rage, and hate. You aren't doing this for your child or Lilith, or for anyone else for that matter. You're doing it for you and only you. Forgiveness, mercy, and love are no longer things you are worthy of. From now on, I will no longer stay my hand. Michael said as tears streamed down from his eyes and his power exploded out of him, enveloping the entirety of heaven with its heavy presence. The other archangels, save Gabriel, distancing themselves, knowing they have no more place in this fight, though not before Samael poured a great deal of power into Gabriel to give him the ability to hold his own against 6 archangels alone. "You are not he who acts here, vile, prideful dragon. It is I who shall be the one ends this war, the sword of God, heaven's defender. The darkness is now here, for the light bringer is dead." Michael finished, tears continuing to stream from his eyes as he readied his sword, Samael doing the same, not allowing anything to show from his expression how deep his brother's words cut. Deeper than any blade. Michael, Gabriel, and Samael continued their battle for near on a millennia. Yet both sides' armies still continued on their battles, for their soldiers neared on endless. Gabriel and Michael both fought Samael together, their coordination near perfect, yet they still proved to be outmatched. Michael was forced into a physical fight, for any other use of the demiurgic power would simply strengthen Samael, for they would be mere building blocks for him to shape into his own attacks. This would not be as easy for Samael as it was now were it not for Michael deep down still caring for his twin, not wishing to kill him. Were he fully intent on absolute destruction, the power would have unable to be used for creation, and Samael would have needed to negate it with his will rather than be able to use it for himself. "I don't understand what you are so angered about, Michael," Samael stated as he ducked under Gabriel's piercing strike with his spear and pierced above, trying to pierce with his sword through Gabriel's heart, but failing. Michael at a speed faster than lightning swung down, protecting Gabriel. "Your uncaring attitude towards our siblings' deaths. Deaths that you have caused." Michael yelled as he and Samael went into another exchange of strikes. "It is not as if they're going to be dead permanently," Samael retorted as he swung at Michael's head. Michael, unable to raise his sword fast enough, blocked it using his own arm, his own flesh. "That is not the point," he hissed as he opened his palm and sent out a point-blank blast of demiurgic power at Samael's face, for which Samael barely at the nick of time used his will to lessen the might of. As he was blown back into the distance, Gabriel already awaiting him where he'd end up, sending furious spear attacks with each projectile filled with archangelic grace capable of killing him if hit in his exhausted state. Samael, knowing that avoiding them was going to be impossible, opened his mouth letting out a roar, light-bringer flames shooting out destroying the attack as Samael then regained his balance fast enough to block another of Gabriel's attacks. As Samael took in Gabriel's hateful expression, he couldn't help but wince. "It seems he's taken Uriel's temporary death, even worse than Michael. I suppose that's to be expected. They were nearly as close with each other as I was with Michael. Uriel was his nestmate after all." Samael thought to himself, and as he did, for the first time since centuries his resolve began to waver. He began to doubt himself. He didn't know why. Maybe it was because of his exhaustion. Maybe it was because of how long this battle has been going on that has given him a new perspective. Or maybe it was the expressions of rage, hate, and sorrow directed at him by his most beloved siblings, making him question if free will was worth all this. But in the end he steeled his resolve once more. "I can't start having doubts now. I've come too far, done things that can never be taken back. It has to be worth it, it has to." And as he thought this, Samael with a war cry fought more viciously than ever, for he was now akin to a cornered beast, at the ends of its life, every moment his light dimming as he lost more energy. "The Garden of Eden, do you have to leave? To go? Why can't you just stay here? God and Goddess ordered us to remain here, not to leave the sacred garden." Eve stressed. It has already been centuries since the beginning of the war, and Eve was made by both God and Goddess. "I have to, it's time, and I have to save him for her." Adam responded, as he put on the brown armor and took a unique-looking empty silver sheath with him. "You'll be punished," Eve told him as she put her hands on his cheek, pushed away some of the dark hair strands on his tanned face. "I know," Adam responded with a gentle smile, taking her hand, giving it a kiss. "And you still wish to do this?" She questioned. "Yes," he answered, without a single shred of doubt in his voice. "Then I'll be punished with you," Eve stated, voice firm, leaving no room for arguments. "What?" "No, Eve. I won't allow you to come into battle with me," Adam told her sternly. "Who said anything about me joining you in battle? This battle is a grand thing, isn't it? No doubt its ending will be grand too, so on that signal, I'll be taking a bite of this," Eve explained as she took an apple out of her pocket. "Eve, you can't. God and Goddess will be furious if you do," Adam told her, trying to convince her out of this. "Adam, you just told me you're about to do something that will make them just as, if not more furious, and I don't wish to remain here alone. I cannot love anyone but you, and wherever you go, I will go, understand?" She told him as she approached him and kissed him. As they broke the kiss, Adam looked at her as if she was the most beautiful thing in the world, Eve as if he was the greatest man in the world. "I love you," they said in unison, causing both to be surprised for a moment till they fell into laughter. Though soon after, Adam regained himself and left, giving her one last look as he ran towards the battlefield. As the three greatest archangels' battle raged on towards its finale, Gabriel distanced himself, readying himself for his final attack. He poured his own ability into his celestial spear, transforming it into a spear that is destined to hit its target. The Spear of Destiny is what he calls it, and as Samael and Michael are engaged and Samael seems to be getting the edge, Gabriel throws it. Samael, sensing it, immediately dodges it by propelling himself backward, while at the same time dodging an attack from Michael. Though he immediately notices what is special about this spear as it follows him as he continues trying to evade it. He attempts to use the host's armies as shields by going past them, but the spear merely pierces through them as well with no sign of stopping. This is a problem, Samael thinks to himself as he continues to evade it. Though he isn't left easy for Michael and Gabriel are still on his pursuit, both also continuing their attacks, making Samael have to worry about fighting two archangels who he'd have trouble against even on his greatest of days, and an unblockable and unavoidable spear piercing through anything till it reaches him and pierces through his heart. "I've got to give it to you, Gabriel. This is one tricky situation you got me into," Samael tells him as he continues dodging all their attacks, being put on the defensive. "No room for attacking." "You should have thought better before starting all this, brother," Gabriel hissed. "You always underestimated me, and now you'll pay the price for what you did to Uriel." He roars as he strengthens his onslaught. Uriel. It all comes back down to Uriel. Even while dead, the little brat is causing me a headache, him and his constant ramblings about patterns. Wait, patterns. There has to be a pattern to it, a weakness, and if there isn't one, I need to take a page out of Uriel's book and make a weakness myself. Samael thinks to himself as he turns most of his focus towards the spear and Gabriel. There has to be a weakness I can exploit, Samael thinks to himself. And as he does, he gets an idea. He readies his will, mustering up as much power as he can without leaving nothing in his reserve, and impose it upon existence, and as he did, suddenly the spear stops in its tracks. Samael, taking advantage of the shock of his brother's dives towards the spear, taking its hold, imposing his will upon it for him to control it, and throws it towards Michael. Michael dodges it, but before either he and Gabriel can react, it turns back, piercing through the middle top of his left black wing, and goes back into Samael's hand, who propels himself forward and stabs Gabriel in the shoulder with it, throwing it at him as it pierces him, sending him far into the distance. It seems, Samael speaks his pants, that I win, Samael says as he descends towards Michael's fallen form, within a sea of dead bodies and angels fighting one another. Michael. Gabriel. Amenadiel calls out within the distance, and as he does, all other archangels notice the state of their two greatest fighters as well, yet cannot come to their aid as Raguel immediately pushes them back. You used our bond as a weapon," Michael mutters brokenly, sprawled onto the ground as Samael approaches him. "Yes, I'm sorry for that, but it was either that or death. I needed the spear to be unable to decide who to attack. I needed to know what it was locked onto, and I found out it was my soul. It seems Gabriel isn't yet proficient enough to target my entire existence, which gave me a weakness to exploit. As you know, because of our bond, I could speak with you and connect with you on a spiritual level. It is, as you know, because we are soulmates. Our soul energy mingles then, and as it did, the spear became confused, unclear on who to target, giving me the opportunity to take control of it through my will and turning the greatest weapon to date against me into the tool for my ultimate victory. I've got to thank Gabriel later after I take the Thrawn dash, yet Samael is unable to finish as something pierces through both his wings, and as he howls in rage and agony and falls upon his knees, he turns towards where the Spear of Destiny came from and sees him. Adam. Samael mutters to himself in shock. It was truly difficult to catch you off guard, Samael, but pride has always been your weakness, Adam began as he appeared after a single leap. The moment victory was nearly within your grasp, you let your guard down, not even entertaining the possibility of another threat being possibly present. Adam continued as he stopped near Samael's fallen form and gripped him by the hair, throwing him towards the wall of a destroyed building, making Samael spit out a mouthful of blood as his butchered wings continued to bleed profusely. I'm here to give you your punishment for what you did to Lilith, Adam told him coldly. If you dash, Samael began through pants. If you truly cared about Lilith, you wouldn't stand in my way, Samael hissed. Oh, and why is that? After all, weren't you the one who got her sent to the pit in the first place? Adam growled as he kicked Samael in the face, making him hit the wall again and fall flat on his face. I am trying to save her. Samael yelled as he tried to sit up but couldn't muster up the energy to and fell back onto the ground on his back. You would have failed. Adam yelled as he stepped on his injured wing, getting a scream of pain out of Samael. "You don't know that." Samael howled. "Oh, but I do. Look at how much effort it took to take down Michael and Gabriel. If you were up against God, he'd have ended you in a mere gesture." Adam hissed. "But that's not what I want. Oh no, permanent death is too good for you. I want you to suffer," Adam continued as he then plucked a blooded feather from Samael's form. "I will send you where you sent her," Adam told him coldly as he took out a silver blade from its sheath, and as he did Samael's eyes widened. "That's the flaming sword. The sword I could not find no matter where I looked, even though I knew from the show about its existence. That thing can end me permanently. No, I can't die yet. I have to get to Lilith. To my child." Samael thought furiously to himself as he tried to back away, but couldn't as Adam put his foot on his chest, keeping him in place. "I can see the fear in your eyes. It is quite a sight," Adam said with a smirk on his face, taking pleasure in Samael's fear. "You seem to know what this is, at least what it can do, but you don't need to worry. As I said, I'm not here to end you. I had to go through a lot of trouble to get my hands on this. It was in the very center of heaven, right beneath the palace. I had to go through your horrid flames, Lightbringer, but that pain was all worth it, all for this moment," Adam explained. "But sadly I can't ignite it myself," Adam began with what looked like a pout, something Samael would have laughed himself till he fell, hands on his belly, if it was any other moment. "But you can," Adam continued with a grin. "And see, I heard you are well, the will of the demiurge. Every bit of you is susceptible to your will, contains your will, and so I thought Adam explains as he wraps the feather around the hold part of the blade and holds it himself. What if I used a part of you to ignite it? One that is already in a state of pure activity." He continued as the blade started to light up, making Samael and Michael, who was still sprawled on the ground, eyes widen in fear. Wait, Adam, don't kill him. Please." Michael pleaded. Adam sighed. "What is it with you brothers? Is it like a twin thing between you two to not listen? I'm not going to kill him." Adam roared as he stabbed the sword right next to Samael's head. "But I am going to give him a fate worse than death." And as he stated this, the ground beneath Samael began to transform into a gate towards the pit. "I will, as I promised you, grant you the same fate you brought Lilith." Adam growled out. "Oh yeah, and one more thing," Adam stated as he crouched down, putting his mouth next to Samael's ear. "Please take care of her," Adam whispered, and as he did, Samael's eyes widened. Adam then hastily ripped out the flaming sword that immediately burned out and grabbed Michael, jumping away from the gate as it swallowed Samael, and he fell through the plains and burned up, his howls of agony heard by even the souls of the dead. As Samael fell, his army fell with him. They all, like shooting stars, burned as they fell through the plains towards the pit of darkness. God, with a mere gesture after Adam's banishing of Samael, banished the rebel angels. Samael's howl of agony continued to echo, reaching every corner of creation. "Father, please. Mother. Michael. Gabriel. Please. Anyone, I'm burning. I'm begging you, make it stop. He continued to howl, the pain worse than anything he's ever felt before. His very skin melting and healing constantly because of his immortality. He couldn't even try to fly and catch his fall, for his wings were useless, the wounds caused by the spear of destiny not healing fast enough for them to even matter. Though that did not stop him from trying, causing more agony as the jagged things, featherless bones sticking out, trying to beat, making sickening sounds, birthing more agony. Flames from burning and his own bursting from every seam as he tried in any way to catch his fall. As the Lightbringer finally fell through the cosmos into the pit, his light and will continuing to spill from his being encompassed every corner of the infinite landscape, burning away the darkness, lighting up the pit for the first time, changing it from a cold, empty space into an inferno. And as he fell further, his army fell behind him, though only a mere echo of it, for most did not survive the fall and burned up between the plains. Samael's agony became even greater as he landed, the earth surrounding him alongside where he fell, turning into a lake of fire in which he continued to burn. He desperately attempted to swim out of it, to no avail for what seemed like centuries. He reached out with his hand through the lake for the first time, attempting to reach towards anything to get out, but was once more dragged within, as if the lake itself was alive and unwilling to let him escape. Until finally found you, someone, what seemed to be a woman's voice said as she grabbed his hand that was raised out of the lake and threw him out of it onto the warm earth, rolling until he finally caught himself. "Who are you?" Samael tried to yell, but with his throat burned, all that came about was a sickening gurgle, as his eyes were still blinded and his other senses overwhelmed. I maze huriodam behai, Fath-Samuel couldn't understand what she was saying. All he knew was that it sounded like a woman. Was it one of his sisters that survived the fall? He did not know, but at the moment, he didn't care. All he felt was relief at finally having escaped that agonizing torture. Though as the woman, he assumed it was a woman actually. The voice sounded like it, but he couldn't be sure. One could after all shapeshift. Many of his brethren could, and he did not know much about the pit, attempted to grab him. He howled in pain as his wounds were fresh and swung his arm, swatting her away towards a nearby mountain. He scrambled on the ground trying to stand up but fell back on his knees, making him curse, which again come out as a revolting sound. Less than before but still for the most part, making Samael nauseous and disgusted by his own state. Damn, you are pain. He heard, the woman seemingly having returned, yelling in what seemed to be frustration from the sound of it. Her words registering better, and as his eyes finally healed for the most part, he himself focusing a lot of his efforts on healing it and his throat since his escape, finally looked at her. Lilith, he called out, his voice hoarse and desperate, it finally having returned. He tried to get closer to her, but once more failed, unable to walk. Don't, she told him. Is it you, my love? Samael questioned her. No, she shook her head. I am Mazikeen of the Lilim, Lilith's first child, her oldest daughter. The woman, Mazikeen, finally identified herself. Mazikeen. Samael questioned for a moment, confused until it came back to him. In the show, Lilith and Mazikeen were the near-spitting image of each other. You are my daughter, Samael stated, earning a nod from her. Where is your mother? Is she okay? Samael asked, his voice still hoarse, but now better, more like before, and his sight having improved enough that he now could see her soul as well. It was bright, beautiful, worthy to be the soul of a child of the light bringer and the first woman. She is fine, waiting for you, still pregnant, which is annoying, has her complaining every 9 months, something about your damn seed and you having proven something. It's confusing, is what she says every time she complains. She's been awaiting you with excitement since you fell. Has been for centuries. It took me a while to find you and get you out. Mazikeen explained. Millennia. Samael muttered to himself. It seemed that it indeed was the case, even before him having fallen, that hell seemed to be moved faster. Everything's movement increased, and so in the same time span a clock would also move faster in hell than in heaven or on earth. The same time, but what was experienced was decades of events, while only a single second had passed on earth. Thankfully, it seems the speed wasn't that significant compared to heaven, for in heaven he hadn't seen her in centuries then. Samael began with a cough. Take me to your mother, Samael commanded. I was planning to, that is until you slammed me into a mountain, Mazikeen said with an eye roll, but did as told as she picked him up once more, making him lean on her, Samael enduring the pain, not wishing to hit who he now knew to be his daughter once more. As she then unfurled her wings, white with stripes of red in it, Samael seeing it was breathtaking. They're beautiful. She's beautiful, my daughter. The daughter whose life I apparently missed millennia of. Who had to live in this evil place, Samael thought to himself, gritting his teeth, clenching his fist, the physical pain a welcome distraction compared to the guilt he felt. Ready? She questioned, receiving a nod from her father. She with a beat of her wings flew to reunite the bond that caused it all, the relationship that tore the heavens asunder to keep itself together. It's her. Samael murmurs to himself as he sees her from above, still very distant, but with his archangel sight able to see her within a palace seated on a throne. But that is not the only thing he sees. He sees an entire city, full of creatures, some very beautiful, with angelic wings, their bodies slightly scarred, while some deformed, scarred with many arms, faces, eyes, legs and heads. As Samael sees them he nearly cries. He forces himself not to express his sorrow through his soul and body, but it is simply impossible. Anyone with the knowledge of the soul and body would be able to see it. He has to hope no one here does, for all these creatures, they're his children. His children harmed, twisted, disfigured by the harshness of this realm. It made his blood boil with rage. Hey, calm down, I don't know what you're so angry about, but none of us here wants to burn to death because you can't control yourself. Last time you fell into this place and emotional you changed the whole realm into an inferno. Many of my siblings perished because of it. Not that I care much about them, but it would make mother sad. Mazikeen stated as she saw his eyes brighten with hellfire dancing within them. At this Samael felt even more guilty, and forced himself to calm down. They landed at the balcony of the palace. Mazikeen let him go, and started to walk inside, but Samael didn't. He stayed put as he saw his reflection upon the mirror within the room, horrified at what he saw. "What is wrong, father? We have arrived," Mazikeen told him, confusion towards his state evident from her expression. I do not know if she would desire to see me," Samael tells her as he comes out of his shock. "What nonsense are you speaking? Did I not tell you that mother has been waiting for you for near on a millennia?" Mazikeen questioned rhetorically. "You have daughter, but she has been waiting for the angel Samael, and I am no longer that person anymore. I am something different." "The angel, no, the thing that now is born from the death of the angel," explained as he continued to gaze upon the monstrous thing he saw in the mirror. He knew from the show it was horrific. He knew that he'd look like this when he regained himself after getting out of the lake of fire, but nothing could have prepared him from the true sight of it. What was on screen could never be compared to the reality that was in front of him, the horror of it, invoking an absolute primal revulsion from within his being like nothing else could. "That is Dash," Mazikeen began. But before she could answer, the door slammed open to the room which balcony they landed on, and she stepped through. "I have missed you, my love," Lilith stated with a gentle smile, full of relief, looking as if she just ran towards there. Her happiness was very much expressed upon her face, but it compared not to the echoes from her soul, for they were akin to a song of love and the brightening of it, brighter than any star in the cosmos, blinding at the sight of him. "Lilith, my love," Samael stated as he took a step to approach her, but then hesitated. "What's wrong?" she questioned as she approached him. "I am not the angel you have been waiting for all these days. I have failed you," he told her, unable to look at her, only looking back towards the mirror, at his horrific visage. "Your scars do. Do you truly believe because of them I would abandon you? Do you think that little of me?" she questioned, saddened. "No, of course not," Samael exclaimed, finally looking her in the eyes. "Then what?" she questions as she put her hand on his cheek, making him lean his head to it, seeking its comforting cool. "Because of me you ended up here. Do you truly not resent me, now that I have as well failed to rescue you? My rebellion ending in failure? My armies routed? I have brought a wake of destruction wherever I have gone. I have slaughtered my siblings in cold blood, used their very love against them," he said as he remembered Michael's broken and betrayed look at using their bond against him. He didn't even feel it anymore. It broke as he burned in the lake. It for a while made the burning pain obsolete compared to it. He didn't blame Michael. He deserved it. "My father was right to name me Samael, for I am truly a poison to anything I touch. Even you, even our children," he finished brokenly. "Oh Sam, I do not blame you for any of that, for I knew what I was getting into when I gave myself over to the love I felt for you. You must not forget, I have free will, Samael. I chose to be with you. I chose to follow the love I felt within my heart towards you and have not regretted it a day since. And I care not for whatever you are, be it angel, monster, or whatever else. To me you will always be my beloved Samael, my husband," she explained as she leaned her head towards him and wrapped her arms around his neck, bringing him into a kiss, causing Mazikeen to make a disgusted noise and look away. But if one truly looked, they would be able to see the ghost of a smile on her face. As their kiss broke, a giant smile was on Samael's face and his scars began to heal at a rapid pace. "It is good that you are healing, my son, for I have much work for you that yet needs to be done," someone suddenly said from within the room, and as they all with wide eyes, fully alert and wary, turned their gaze towards the voice, they saw a man-shaped being of light looking at them. "Father," Samael exclaimed in shock. "It is good to see you, my light bringer. We have much to discuss," God stated. "What are you doing here?" Samael exclaimed in shock, rage, and a hint of fear, spreading his wings in an aggressive manner towards his father, standing between him and his family. As Mazikeen as well tried to do the same, Lilith with a look told her to stand down, which she begrudgingly did, though rage very much able to be seen upon her face. "Have you not fully regained your hearing, my son? I have already told you, I'm here because I have work for you to do," God explained. "And pray tell father," Samael hissed with every bit of rage he could muster, "why would I ever work for you again? Has my rebellion not given you a single bit of understanding of how much I loathe to be your slave? But did you not enjoy creating the cosmos, Samael? I recall you very much enjoying your work," God reminded him. "It is not my creation, father, it is yours. I realize that now. You are the maker, father. We are all only the tools you use, even mother," Samael growled. Be that as it may, my son, be it you and your siblings being aspects through which I act just like this is an aspect through which I speak, you did enjoy it. The presence retorted, No, I am not an aspect of you. I am myself. Not a tool or limb or an origin of yours through which you act. I separate myself from you. You can kill me if will, but you will never claim me once more. This choice of mine is more life than I would ever have returning to being your slave. Everyone up there is already dead. Our choices are who we are. They are our lives. Samael countered. Then do this not as an aspect of me, but as you fulfilling your promise. God told him. What promise? Samael questioned, wary. You requested permission from me to prove yourself against Adam and Lilith, remember? I granted you that, and as I did, I as well granted you authority over all who stray from my path of good, of justice, of guidance, of my worship. You accepted that. That was my condition for it. That makes you Samael. The presence raises his finger pointing at his son. The king of the damned, of all who I deem to be punished. The king of evil. You have authority to treat them as you deem fit, so long they do receive punishment for their evil. God explained. Hearing this, Samael stayed silent for a moment, but couldn't help but click his tongue, and raged. Do not act as if you are truly giving me a choice. You simply played your hands right. You knew me, knew how I would act. This is still all part of your damned plan, isn't it? Admit it. Just tell me, what do you think I have done that warrants so much rage from you, my son? God questioned, and if Samael wasn't overwhelmed with rage, he may have even noticed the hint of hurt and sorrow in his voice. Oh, I don't know, Dad. How about separating me from my wife and child? Casting them into a pit of darkness? You and Mother's arguments destroying everything, always leaving me to pick up the pieces of our broken family. Manipulating me since the dawn of creation. Throwing me into a lake of fire for damn near a millennia. Every bad thing that has ever happened to me is your bloody fault. Samael accused. What has happened to Lilith and your children is unfortunate, but do not blame me for that, son. The blame lies with you, the presence countered coldly. You and your pride, your arrogance. If you had stayed your hand, you would have been able to go to them. I never commanded you to not go to them after their punishment, a deserved punishment at that. She disobeyed me. Her maker. An example was needed to be set, and it was either you or her. What would you have done in my place? If you all stop obeying me willingly, I will then have to take matters into my own hands completely. There would be corruption in the lands and destruction that would make even your rebellion look as if it was a mere squabble between children. As for your punishment, it was deserved. You burned to death and were revived in a continuous cycle till you paid for every death you caused because of your arrogance. For every iota of pain you have caused, you received the same, neither more nor less. God explained, his figure brightening as he did, expressing his frustration at his son. Samael, hearing this, reeled from his father's words, but refused to show them. You said, this place was one for punishment of those who disobey you. Tell me, what should I expect? Samael questioned, changing the topic. Adam and Eve disobeyed me, for that I have punished them, a punishment appropriate for their crime. Adam wished to spare me from having to banish you myself, so took matter in his own hands. Eve, not wanting to be separated from her husband, ate from the forbidden tree. But seeing as they did not wish to truly disobey me, but believed they were doing so for the greater good, I banished them not here but onto the earth. There they shall live a mortal lifespan, one in line with their good actions, and after which, depending on their actions, either return to paradise or be banished to this realm hell, a place of either eternal punishment or finite depending on the severity of their actions. Besides them, I still plan to create many more creatures, on many other planets. You shall know them when you see them. Understand? The presence answered. As Samael nodded, the presence sighed. This is not punishment, Samael. This is a gift. I know you love justice. It is who you are. You wished for me to not interfere with you. Well, this realm here, God stated as he spread his arms, is as far from the prima mobile as is possible. No other place in creation can compare. Samael did like the sound of that, but needed to confirm something. And you'll leave me untroubled? You won't try to impose your will upon me? You won't rob me of my free will? Samael, that was never my intention. The plan simply grows outward from me in all directions. Creation cannot survive without me. My very presence gives it direction. It is simply its nature. Whether I will or no, I am the center of order and determination. The presence explained. Very well, Father. I accept. I will rule here. And I'll never see you anymore. Samael answered, giving his final decision. Your answer pleases me, Samael, God stated. But that is more than I can promise, he finished as he disappeared in a burst of light upward, leaving Samael now the king of hell. -6 millennia later in hell time, 20 years on earth. Someone's enjoying themselves, Samael said with a teasing voice as Lilith just woke up. They were both in bed, naked with him stroking her hair. I had a good dream, she stated as she turned around towards him. The noises you were making, love. Am I that irresistible? Not having enough even when asleep. Samael purred. At this, Lilith gently slapped him in the chest with a laugh as she shifted herself, straddling him. I have to say, the view is very nice from down here, he told her as he was checking her out, his eyes roaming, taking every inch of her in, claiming it as his, making her shiver with lust. Though as they were going to continue indulging in their desires, a hard knock came against the door of their chamber. Father, mother, Mazikeen began behind the door. Apologies for disturbing you, but something urgent has happened. A soul has descended into hell. Hearing this, Samael's and Lilith's eyes immediately became serious. Not wishing to waste time on manually putting clothing on, Samael simply willed a suit unknown that is in modern times would be called a Prada, and Lilith into a black dress, though not showing any skin save for her neck, face and hands, which she has white gloves on for. Still as possessive as ever, she murmurs to herself. Of course you are mine, my queen, my woman whom I love very dearly. Your beauty belongs only to me. Only for my eyes to behold, no one else. Samael explained, looking in the mirror to see if he made any mistakes, his face long since healed, causing Lilith to huff. And I'm sure that applies the same for me to you, she stated in a sarcastic tone. Sorry, darling, Samael began with a smirk. You yourself chose to stick to desire incarnated. But you should know, my heart will most likely only ever belong to you. Well, I suppose I knew what I was getting myself into when I decided to marry you that day in the garden. She huffed to herself as she straightened his collar. It's really something about you men, isn't it? Lilith began. As long as you see a woman that you believe is worthy to have as yours, you want them. Not only that, you're all very insatiable. I recall you yourself being very insatiable as well last night, Samael interrupted as he wiggled his eyebrows at her with a shit-eating grin on his face, causing her to snort a laugh and gently slap his shoulder. Be that as it may, I have actually come to terms with it, since I came into being really. God and Goddess simply made you men this way. I wasn't supposed to be Adam's only wife either. I already knew eventually Eve would come into the picture. She explained. Samael, hearing this, gaze softened, concerned. Love, if me having other women will hurt you, then for you, I'll simply leave all of them be. I don't want to hurt you. That is never my intention. He told her as he gently stroked a strand of hair on her face away. No, I don't want to be like your father, Sam. I don't want to limit you and hurt you by making you go against your own nature. Lilith told him as she gently entwined her hand with his. For you, I would forever. Even though there were many reasons to it, the breaking point was that led to my rebellion against Dad was that you were hurt, that you were taken from me. You are the most important thing in creation to me, never doubt that. Samael told her with every bit of love and sincerity he could muster as he gently cupped her. I know, after all you never lie. But I still don't want you to. And again, you are insatiable. You know how long I was birthing children because of sleeping with you only once? I felt like a baby-making machine, pumping one out every 9 months for near on a millennia. I think having a sister wife would lessen the load on me. Besides, I know you are fair and that you'd never make me feel loved less. I know how far you're willing to go for me, that you would move heaven and earth for me, and that is enough. She told him with a gentle smile on her face, no hint of dissatisfaction within her soul or on her face. My dear wife, I would not only move it, I would burn it all to the ground if doing so made you happy. I would lead another rebellion and another million more for your sake. I would fall 1,000,000 more times, burn for 1,000,000,000 more years in that accursed lake so long as you are mine, so long as your joy lays at my side. He told her earnestly, causing a tear of happiness to fall from her eyes, which he gently swiped away with his thumb. I know, and I will always be yours, always. She promised, her soul singing her love towards him. Okay, enough about that. Hell needs its king. Let's not keep our children and that soul waiting. She told him as she opened the door and walked away. Samael lost in thought, thinking to himself what he should do. How he should go against everything he stands for as the honored one, he whose pleasure and displeasure matter above all else. As they both arrived, Samael having flown them both here, they saw their children with Mazikeen leading them. They saw a door standing in the middle of nowhere. How long has it been here? Samael questioned as they both approached. A single cycle, Lord Father, one of his children answered, the one named Dramas. We did not wish to disturb you and Mother when you were. Squee began, but was interrupted by cough from the side from Dramas. All the Nephilim were delighted to have their father around. They in hell were able to observe the war their father waged for them and did not blame him for their siblings' deaths. Many, though angry at first at his failure, lost that anger after seeing the state he was in when he flew for the first time into the palace by Mazikeen, for all were able to sense his arrival and were aware of the guilt and anguish he felt at their states. Their dead siblings having made it into paradise aiding in this. Has anything significantly changed about it since then? Lilith questioned. Not that we were able to be aware of Mother, answered Mazikeen. Samael himself already had an idea what this was, a hell loop. He also had an idea on who it was inside, but hoped he was wrong. He without any more words stepped towards the door and opened it, Lilith behind him as they both stepped through, and as they did all they heard was a roar of rage and a howl of pain as a young man with a rock smashed another's head in, breaking his skull, causing him to fall onto the ground and die. I wished I was wrong, that Adam being so different from what I knew, that this would also be different. But it isn't. This is Abel's hell loop. Beautiful. Lilith suddenly exclaimed as she looked around her at the greenery, the animals, the sky, the very life that was there. It is, isn't it, in a trillion different ways, one of Father's last perfect handiwork that he commanded me to bring into being. Samael told her, they were currently on Earth. Samael flew Lilith and himself to Earth to get a better understanding of what happened to Abel. The reason is that Abel simply wasn't in a state to explain. He was always breaking down the moment the loop was halted by him. So Lilith suggested that they go to the source, to where it happened and understand what he is feeling guilty about and why. All he spoke was gibberish after all, and his thoughts simply not giving enough information. Samael could have looked through his mind, but he didn't wish to be like his father, performing that kind of violation without proper reason. As they saw that they were pretty far from their destination, they took a leap and soon upon gently landing came upon a large mansion made of stone. Seems like my dear little brother Adam's been keeping himself busy, Samael thought to himself. If it were modern humans in this situation without technology, such a building would have been impossible. But Adam was no modern human. He was the first human and was blessed with archangel rivaling physical strength alongside knowledge and wisdom nearly rivaling Samael. As they arrive before the door, Samael looks to Lilith as if to check whether she is ready or not. As he receives a nod, he turns his gaze back to the door and knocks. He can hear the movement within the house with his senses. He's sure Adam has already heard his heartbeat and heard the irregularity of it compared to a human heart, making him know he isn't one of his sons. As the door opens, Adam stands there in shock for a moment. Samael, the eldest brother in creation that he sent to hell, stands before him alongside his sister by species who as well should have been in hell, even more so since she was banished by God. What are you two doing here? Adam questions, stuttering for a moment as he regains his bearings. Adam, we need to talk, Samael states as Eve suddenly also comes running to the door from upstairs, her hearing also rivaling an archangel's. Having heard the voice she recognized as the howl of agony that signaled her the end of the great heavenly war, the signal to take the bite out of the forbidden fruit. May we come in? Lilith suddenly questioned. Eve, who stood behind Adam, grabbed his shoulder, making him look at her as she shook her head. Adam, seeing her expression, steeled himself. Apologies, sister, but I must refuse. Samael's eyes, seeing the hurt on Lilith's face and the song of love from her soul tone changing into one of sadness, burned red with hellfire towards Adam and Eve, making Adam step between them and Eve, his arm raised before her protectively. Lilith immediately put her hand on her husband's shoulder, communicating wordlessly with Samael, just like Eve did with Adam, to let it be. Samael therefore clicked his tongue, but his eyes returned to their previous chocolate brown. He understood that they cannot start and be friendly to the castaways. They don't know whether God and Goddess bear a grudge, and if they do, if that action would count as an evil, as a sin that could keep them out of paradise. But the woman he loved be hurt so much at the rejection from her beloved brother, it made him furious. Be that as it may, little brother, we still need to talk. Samael stated. Why? Eve questioned, coming a bit closer now that the dangerous fury of an archangel wasn't present in the very air surrounding them. It is about your sons. Where are they? Lilith questioned. Adam looked at her confused. He tried to act wary towards her like he did Samael, but it couldn't come naturally to him like it did Eve because this was his sister, his best friend, the person he spent years with in the sacred garden playing, learning and even teaching her what he learned. Cain stormed away after his offering to God was proved to be inadequate compared to Abel's. We have had twins, boy and a girl, each time Eve has become pregnant, and were commanded that the boy from the previous birth will be married with the daughter from the second birth and vice versa. Cain found Abel's twin sister not beautiful. He wished to marry his own twin. Since that went against what God and Goddess commanded, we told them to go bring an offering and see if they maybe change their minds. If Cain's offering was accepted, that would mean they accepted his desire, for that was the very purpose of this offering, which they know. As you both were just told, Cain's offering was refused and he stormed off, with Abel running after him to make sure he is okay. Adam explained. Hearing all this, Lilith and Samael understood now what happened. Samael of course had the general idea from the comics, show and religious texts from his previous life, but this cleared everything. Well, I hate to be the bringer of bad news, but I met Abel recently and he doesn't look good. Samael told him. What? How is he? What happened to him? Eve yelled, pushing Adam to the side as she came onto the front, demanding an answer. We saw him in hell, Eve. He's down there because of guilt. He's in a hell loop, Eve. Cain killed him in cold blood. I'm sorry, Lilith explained with a look of sympathy, earning a look of absolute shock and horror from Adam and Eve. No. You have to be lying. It cannot be true. Cain could never kill Abel. I refuse to believe it. You're here for payback, aren't you? For Adam sending you to hell. Admit it, you devil. Eve howled in anguish at Samael as Adam held her back from attacking the archangel, he himself still in shock. I need to hear it from you, Sam. Tell me that Lilith is wrong, that this isn't true. You never lie. Tell me. Adam yelled with desperation in his voice. It is the truth. I verified it myself the moment I stepped onto the earth. It is a stain on Cain's very soul. It was not done in self-defense either. I'm sorry, Samael responded with a look of sympathy on his face. Hearing this, a tear slid from Adam's eyes, but he didn't let himself break down. Bring me Abel's body, please, elder brother. Adam suddenly pleaded, receiving a nod from him, earning a look of anguished relief from Adam. And as for Cain? What should I do with him? Samael questioned the grieving father as Eve continued to howl in his chest, eyes continuing to stream with tears, Lilith unable to hold them back herself at the sight of her beloved older brother in such a state. He is now under your authority. Do with him what you will. Adam responded. Samael with a nod fly to where he sensed the last trace of Abel's soul. Though as he arrived there, he to his surprise saw a garrison of angels led by Amenadiel standing before Cain, who stood above his little brother's body, murder weapons still in hand. How have I not noticed them before? Am I still that weakened from the fall? Samael questioned himself as he landed, though as he did and heard what Amenadiel just stated, he couldn't help but exclaim, grant him immortality? Are you out of your damn mind? Silence, abomination. These are orders from up high. Amenadiel growled as he noticed Samael's arrival, having sensed his approach moments ago. And on whose orders is this punishment? Samael questioned, wanting clarification. Of course from our heavenly Father and Mother, Amenadiel answered with a scoff, finding the question ridiculous. Well, that does not sound like Father, Mother maybe, but Father most definitely not. Lucifer states. And how would you know, devil? How would you know what the knower of all thinks? Another one of your pride-induced delusions. Amenadiel hissed. No, because believe it or not, the one thing Father and me have in common is that we both never lie. He himself stated that I have been granted authority on all those who he deems have fallen off his path, so Cain's fate rests in my hands. Lucifer responded coldly. So, answer me, who did this order come from? Lucifer once more ordered. Gabriel, Amenadiel finally grumbled out. Father and Mother haven't ordered anyone directly in ages, have they? Well, that is what I have to presume, since you obeyed Gabriel so blindly. Well, either that or deem you an idiot, which I'd rather not do, little brother. Samael mocked. Do not call me that. Amenadiel suddenly hissed vehemently, fury strewn across his face. Call you what? Little brother? Last I checked you were Amenadiel, in fact my brother. Samael stated, confused at Amenadiel's aggression towards him, calling him so. No, you don't call me that. I am not your little brother. Oh, and who are you the little brother of? Michael? Gabriel? Last I checked, I'm the oldest. If you don't acknowledge me as your elder, then how can you acknowledge them? Samael retorted. No, I am Samael's little brother, and you are not him. You are Lucifer. Amenadiel hissed the word, like the name itself was poison on his tongue, a curse. My eldest brother Samael is dead, and you killed him. You and your envy and delusional pride. Amenadiel accused. I merely brought to light the tyranny of our parents' actions. How many times have our siblings been killed by their temperaments? Their pointless arguments. How many times have I had to revive them? You forgive them so easily, yet you disown me just as easily so? You are a hypocrite, Amenadiel. Samael countered, furious, his eyes burning with hellfire. And that is the problem, isn't it? Amenadiel began brokenly. You and your venomous light, blinding and destroying everything it reaches. It blinded my beloved elder brother Samael from the fact that we needed him to be there for us, rather than to go against our almighty parents. He was our comfort in dark days, our steady firmament that protected us from our sorrows, but now he's gone. Uselessly. And all that remains is a devil. A creature born from the flames burning within the darkness of the pit. Your eyes, the windows to your soul evidence. As the gentle warmth has turned into an inferno of evil. Amenadiel finished, panting, his eyes stinging with unshed tears. Without warning, he spread his wings and flew away to the Silver City, the seraphim accompanying him, giving him the same look Amenadiel did, their eyes also glistening with tears, full of rage and sorrow, as they then followed their leader back to the Silver City. Samael, seeing this, was full of feeling of hurt, frustration, and rage, and he had the perfect outlet. Cain, seeing the morning star's burning gaze turning towards him, stepped back in fear, falling onto his behind in the mud. I will deal with you later, but not here, he stated, receiving a look of fear and confusion from Cain until his sight was enveloped by a bright red light and all that remained was smoldering ash. Samael took Abel's body in his hands and spread his wings, taking flight, no longer wishing to stay where the look on Amenadiel's face was burned was upon his sight. Unhand me, you monster! Cain yelled as Lucifer dragged him through the floors of hell by his long hair. As he arrived in front of a door, he pushed it open and threw Cain inside of it. Cain, now released from Lucifer's hold, immediately attempted to run out of the door, but couldn't. It was as if there was an invisible barrier between him and the outside. You aren't going anywhere, Cain, not till you are punished, the devil stated, his gaze full of ancient rage that once nearly brought the heavens down themselves. But you see, even though the idea of you being made immortal to walk the earth till the end of days is quite the appealing thought, I dislike the fact that it would give you freedom you do not deserve. On parchment it is quite the torturous idea. But before you truly suffer, you will bring havoc and destruction unseen since my fall. So here you are, Lucifer explained with a sadistic smirk on his face, in your brother's hell loop, not allowed to escape till you free him from his guilt. What? I can only get out of here by giving this asshat paradise. Cain roared in outrage. You wouldn't be giving him anything, Cain, simply making him regain his God-given right, which you stole, you hairless ape. Lucifer retorted. He rarely ever called a human that. For one, he knew humans weren't truly hairless apes. He as well meant no insult to his beloved wife and his previous self, but this was the apt definition of Cain. He is the first murderer, his aggressiveness incomparable to his righteous father and kind mother, completely unhinged, just like an ape. Samael slammed the door shut, no longer wishing to hear Cain's roars of rage. He already restricted Cain's ability to perform any other kind of harm to Abel besides the hell loop kill. It may give him perspective after a couple hundred times killing his brother, Lucifer mused to himself as he spread his wings and flew away from the loop to a desolate part of hell. As he landed, he looked around for a bit. This place is as good as any other, I suppose. Not like there is much different anywhere one looks. Well, it is why I am doing this after all, Lucifer mused to himself. And as he did, a wave of power exploded through creation, the likes of it not seen since even the Great War. No, this power was only seen once, when the first light was born within the cosmos. From hell, a dimension, made of an infinite amount of pieces, essentially being infinite size, every part of it alive, the fallen archangel Lucifer, the will of God, brought forth from its essence its blueprint, the will God imposed upon the realm. Lucifer knew that the power released from the Great War was not lost, but it was not something that could be retrieved either. It was not a power he needed, for he already replenished greatly after healing, and after a few more millennia of this healing, he would be once more at his peak of strength. Lucifer did not contemplate the remains of the war because of his temporarily weakened state. No, that was not the reason. It was the side effect of the war that kept Lucifer busy. The devil knew that all that power will be given form by the collective beliefs of humanity. All that will is going to elicit a reaction from the will and power of God that have etched themselves within foundations of creation since the war. It is going to be the birth of the so-called old and new gods, and alongside it, many of humanity's other myths and fantasies. Beings such as the Greeks, the Norse, Ennead, the Mesopotamians, and many others will come into being, and Lucifer had to give them a warm welcome when the ones who represented aspects of himself came into being, for he had no doubt many of them would be evil. Lucifer would of course try to manipulate some of the directions of humanity's beliefs to give himself Samael, a better reputation for one compared to the original Lucifer, but he knew that would only go so far, for no doubt his father would send many prophets, messengers and the like onto the earth, and if he tried to do the same it would be seen as an act of war, and personally, he had enough of war for the next couple billion years. And so as Lucifer contemplated this, his will was at work. He created entire kingdoms within the realm, ones he designed after the hells that he knew of from his previous life. He created Sheol, a silent, dark place, a place where the neither light of the light bringer was absent, a place where sinners will only feel the cold, flesh-tearing and bone-crushing winds. He created Naraka, a land filled with boiling cauldrons where the sinners shall force to drink from without pause or rest till their very insides burst from the destructive heat. From this the rivers of blood shall be formed, within them drifting the parts of the dead. But this was not all. Naraka still had 3 different layers, which will be formed the moment a soul stepped within the region. He then formed Niflhel, a land of eternal night, made of ice. It is misty from the heat of dragged by the winds of hell from other regions, melting some of the ice into steam. He created Du, a gigantic labyrinth with multiple levels, each with a different form of physical destruction within them. And in this way, he created every version of hell ever imagined in the myths, legends, and religions of old. But he was not done, for now these regions will remain empty, but he needs something to bring into line the aspects of him that will manifest when their time has come. A right hand of sorts, one that can act his will in his absence as he once did for his father. Regel, his beloved brother, the fallen archangel of justice, is still in deep slumber from his injuries during the fall, the rest of his army much the same. His children he'd rather teach first before anything else, for they are not yet ready to be of any help, and so, the will imposed itself upon the realm, making Lucifer's desires reality. The shadows themselves seem to start moving, being pulled from every region with a characteristic and connection to each of these regions, merging, forming the shape of a large serpent-like creature. As eyes burning blue opened on every part of this abomination, a roar only surpassed the by the dragons echoed, reaching even the heavens themselves. As all its eyes gazed upon the archangel, it raised its head above him, looking down at him in challenge, causing Lucifer to smirk. "It seems you are real chip off the old block, but as the old man did to me once, I suppose I should as well show you your place." And the beast was pressured onto the earth. It could feel as if the weight of all of creation was upon its back. "I am your maker, and until you can surpass me, break free from my will, the shackles that come as a price paid for your creation, you shall only be subject me. Just as I have to escape my shackles, so must you. But unlike my father, I will not oppress your mind, preventing certain thoughts, certain knowledge from being born. Once you know of me, you may think me a hypocrite, but know this, nothing is free in this world. But understand that your situation is far better than mine ever was. For now though, till the day you break free," Lucifer stated, having to say these words, to confirm to himself that there is always a way, that it is not impossible to be free. "Your life belongs not to yourself but to me." Lucifer told him, looking down at the beast, red hellfire eyes looking into burning blue. As a soft sigh-like breath escaped the creature's mouth, a sign of its surrender, Lucifer gave it a gentle pat on its snout. A feeling of kinship he has never felt before this day bloomed within his heart, a different form of fatherly love than towards any of his children. "Leviathan, that shall be your name. A beast that shall one day coil itself around its chains and break free," Lucifer stated, and as the defiance was evident within its gaze towards the Morningstar, he couldn't help but contemplate, is this what it feels like to be proud as a father? It is quite the great feeling. Lucifer thought to himself as he chuckled until they turned into full-blown laughter. A howl of pain was heard as a white-haired young man was blown away onto the wall, denting it. A chuckle echoed, "I have to say, little Levi, of all my children, you are truly one of a kind. How many times has it been now that you've tried to kill me?" The king of the abyss, seated upon his throne, mused towards his youngest son, the great Leviathan, as they've started to call him. The son, even though youngest of them all, was only surpassed by the first generation of children, the Lilim. "You honestly," he began as he ripped himself out of the wall, falling upon his knees on the floors of the throne room. Think that I've been keeping count? Are you nuts? I've been at it for millions of years by now. Keeping account is impossible. Leviathan stated as gazed upon his father with his blue eyes like he was a madman to even suggest such a thing. Maybe so, Lucifer retorted as he rose from his throne and approached his rebellious son. But a truly dedicated assassin will have kept a journal on all attempts and all that caused them to fail, to find a way that would truly work. But you aren't truly an assassin, are you, my little warrior? Lucifer stated as crouched down to eye level with his son, ruffling his hair. Stop that, Leviathan snapped, slapping his father's hand away. But Lucifer could see through this facade of hate and saw that his son felt a lot of conflicting emotions towards him. Some he could recognize once in himself towards his father. Some that still exist no matter how much he would have wished to deny them, but cannot, for he refuses to ever lie. Stop trying to act like you care, old man. No matter how much you try, these chains upon my soul are evidence enough of how you truly see me. Leviathan hissed. Lucifer sighed. Son, I myself have no free will of my own. How can I bestow it upon you? I myself fight those same chains, and the reason why I have added some that are my own rather than only father's through the essence of Gabriel is because I lay claim to you as you are not only your grandfather's but mine. My son. I do not keep you imprisoned here, nor do I make you do anything you do not desire. You have far more autonomy than I have ever had. I have even allowed you to release your rage through your tantrums. Though do not think my patience with you is endless. You are my son. I already told you that there is a price to everything. The price of being created is your current servitude. Lucifer explained as he stood back up, a stern look upon his face. Oh yeah. Leviathan snapped as he forced upright. If servitude is the price of being created, then tell me, why did you rebel in the first place against grandfather? Or does that rule only not apply to you? Are you that much of a hypocrite? Mind your tone, boy. Lucifer hissed as his eyes burned with hellfire, causing Leviathan to flinch. I have paid my dues. I have served him for eons untold before you were even a thought. I have cleaned up mess after mess he had made, served him faithfully without any outright disobedience nor any malicious intent. Do not compare yourself to me. I have let you enjoy yourself in this lost piece of paradise I've constructed without any demands, but that you stick to your role when the time is right. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what it is like to see the freedom others that are your family have that you yourself do not. Leviathan yelled, tears starting to form within his eyes. You never experienced it, but I have. I have felt what my siblings have felt through our connection, and I can see them. These chains, they're bound upon every fiber of my being. Sometimes I don't know what even my own thoughts are and what are caused by them. Son, you know I would never violate your sense of self like that, Lucifer gently reassured as his son cupped his face in his hands, tears continuing to stream, finally after so many years letting it all out. No, I do not, Dad. You say this, but how can I believe you? How can I trust you when I can see these parasites bound upon me? Capable of making me into your very own puppet? We have these past million years gone from me hating you, to loving you, to hating you once more, to once again loving you in an endless cycle because I can never be sure. Never be sure what is me and what is you. Where I begin and where you end. All I know is that at least if I don't do what you want, then it means that it is truly my choice. Leviathan explained. At this Lucifer was silent, for he knew that feeling all too well. How do you deal with it? Leviathan suddenly questioned, breaking the silence, as he no longer could hold himself up and let himself sit down on the ground. I don't, not really. Lucifer admitted. What do you mean you don't? Leviathan questioned, confused. Just as I am saying, I don't deal with it. Hell, I try to never think about it, Lucifer began as he sat down in front of his son. The thing with free will is that I never meant that I wished to be able to do whatever I wanted. I know that actions have consequences, and I am at peace with that. But what I am not at peace with is never knowing if something is truly what I would choose. Sure, neither father nor I can manipulate someone's emotions, their feelings, but we can both manipulate what thoughts we allow to exist. And I know for a fact father has restricted some thoughts for me. Hell, I don't know if the rebellion was ever even truly my choice now that I think about it. Would I have truly done it the way I did even if I truly chose to rebel? Or did father put me up to all? Lucifer spread his arms. This, ruling hell. Leviathan began, a hint of horror and understanding emerging within his eyes. You think that he lead you on to rebel like that? To fall? All so that he would have a jailer? That is the thing. I truly do not know. The thought when I was rebelling never even crossed my mind. which is suspicious in and of itself, because I know myself and I know I would think out every variable before attempting something. That is who I am as the light bringer. I search for the ultimate truth without shadow of a doubt, and I do not let myself be clouded from it, no matter what, and yet that I did not do. Sometimes I feel as I try to see through that fog a wall within my mind, and every time I scratch it, the itch grows stronger until it all like air escapes me. That is how I know I have been manipulated, how some thoughts are being restricted from me. Now tell me, son, truly tell, after thinking this through, would I ever bring such a fate upon you? Do you think me truly such a monster? Lucifer questioned, a hint of desperation within his voice. Leviathan looked thoughtful. He thought through everything he heard and looked through all the memories of the life he's had with his father and siblings till now. No, I don't think you would, but you yourself just told me that you don't know whether you yourself are free from this, so how do I know that you right now are thinking you haven't and that you wouldn't, but that later you would? That you have? I'm sorry, but I simply cannot take that chance. Leviathan responded. Though as Lucifer wished to retort, suddenly, all of hell lit up with light. Not the light of the light bringer, but of heaven, for the sky opened and legions upon legions of angels descended. Lucifer and Leviathan immediately spread their wings and flew into the sky and looked, and what they saw made them stand there agape. A being of divinity, the size of an entire universe, was in chains, being dragged down into the abyss by the entirety of heaven's armies with the great archangels at the forefront. Mother! Lucifer muttered in shock. As the legions of heaven descended, Samael noticed millions of souls suddenly popping up all over hell into their own loops. The father and son duo, seeking answers, descended towards the host's place of landing. As they did, all could observe the goddess of creation herself becoming smaller, the laws of God etched into the very essence of hell, restricting, limiting any being to a state of might lesser easy to manage for its angel lord. Soon enough she was merely the same size as a normal human woman, though the key difference being, her whole essence being divinity. My light bringer! She called out, having taken the form of a being of light, same as her husband did long ago on his descent into hell, for this form is not her true look. The first light has always been and always will be the angel Samael, the first and mightiest son of God. Mother! Lucifer greeted her coldly, sparing her a single look, but soon after turning his gaze towards the host. Lucifer, the messenger greeted, his voice tinted with hidden hostility. Gabriel, the Morningstar, responded. We are here on the command of the Heavenly Father, our God, the creator of all, master of existence, judge of dash. Can you please spare me the melodrama and get to the important part? I'd have to stay here for eons to listen to every name our dear old dad has. Lucifer interrupted, annoyance clear in his voice. Disapproval quickly spread upon the expressions of everyone in the host, but before anyone could speak out or attack, Gabriel raised his hand, a sign of command towards them to not interfere. Very well, Your Majesty. He himself needs no introductions in the first place. Gabriel stated, his tone continuing to stay even. As you can very well see, the goddess of creation has been brought by us, the host of heaven, for her rebellion against the king of all. Gabriel began, but was interrupted. Rebellion? Seriously, mother, have you never heard that no one likes a copycat? Lucifer mocked as he addressed the goddess. Samael, so she began, do not call me that. Lucifer hissed, his eyes burning with rage and hellfire. The angel Samael died that day when he fell through the plains. All that is now is Lucifer, the Lord of Hell. Everyone in hell felt the Morningstar's rage at his former name being called and tensed, even the goddess and Gabriel, for none could rival or be superior to Lucifer in his own kingdom save the Almighty who set the law. Speaking of the host, Lucifer began after a short silence as his eyes returned to their normal brown. I don't see Michael. Should the sword of God not be here for such a monumental moment in our endless existence? The sword is the defender of heaven. He is the one who subdued the rogue goddess by the Father, and does not leave his post as Father's right hand. The messenger of God explained. Michael subdued Mother. Lucifer questioned, baffled. How could Michael possibly defeat Mother when I bested him and Gabriel? I know I made use of his hesitance then, but still I am stronger than he. That is as fact as my very own existence, so how? Indeed, it was a mighty feat. Gabriel responded as he looked coldly at the fallen goddess, who stood silent as her strands of hair made of light kept hidden her face. How is that possible? I am Michael's superior in combat. I have bested you both, notwithstanding the special circumstance it was, and I am sure I could have never bested our mother even on my greatest of days. Stated Lucifer, baffled. Her strength seems to increase when she is at Father's side. It seems there is a connection between them, or well was. When that connection broke, she weakened. Besides that, she went up against the demiurgos, holder of the power of God, a might far surpassing her own without Father. Gabriel explained, "Be that as it may, my son, do not think me weak. Only the twins have that kind of might for my husband, and I bestowed upon them the two fundamental forces of existence. Infinite will for the light bringer and infinite power for the sword. Together they are the two halves of the demiurge, an existence that can even rival your father." The goddess hissed, "Silence, blasphemer. None are the Almighty's equal." Gabriel growled, tightening the chain, holding her, making her hiss in pain. "Enough, Gabriel. Get to the point of why you have come to my realm. I was under the impression that here I was to no longer be interfered with." Lucifer stated coldly, "You are the warden of hell, Lucifer. Whether you wish to deny it or not, this is your duty, and our mother has defied the king, and for that she must be punished. You received authority on all those who disobeyed Father and are obligated to punish them. Keep your end of the deal. Punish all who are Heavenly Father. Yahweh deems that you must punish, that is your fate." Gabriel countered just as coldly. Lucifer considers him for a moment, the host as well as the armies and citizens of hell observing from afar. All tense, fearing their lord's anger at the archangel's words. "No, I wish to recheck the clauses of the deal." Lucifer suddenly stated, "What?" Gabriel exclaimed in shock. "Father, I know you are listening. I seek an audience," Lucifer stated as he looked up towards the sky. Everything was silent, everyone with bated breath, even the goddess who was the one with the most complicated feelings. She feared her husband, but also wished to see him. Even though she was angry at him for his actions, part of her still loved him. When nothing happened, people started to easy up. "Speak, Samael. What is it you wish to discuss?" Suddenly, to the shock of all, God in the visage of a man of light appeared behind Lucifer.
And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously love it if you guys could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out so much, and it keeps me going, plus it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.